This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
Wrong! If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity!
Russ Wakeland. You put me on a boat with frickin' dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking. And Raef, Hollywood Granger.
Now that's Jimmy Django right there.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
Drago, we made you out of steel.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the round-up discussion of all things gaming, coming at the speed of a graceful Miaras, descendants of the great Felaroth, offspring of Nahar, the Mount of Orone. Today's edition is brought to you by all of those great folks over at Patreon that make it possible for we to do what we do every day. Yeah. I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host. Today our panelists are Russ Will Whitfoot Wakeland, and returning the Granger host emeritus chair, the rocket dog himself, Raef Glorfindel Granger. Let's begin. Issue number 1. No geek worth his geek cred card is a stranger to the Lord of the Rings, and for true mastery in the Platinum card, you need to have read the entire series at least twice, and the Silmarillion, well, you have to at least have owned a copy of the Silmarillion at one point. Question: although the books are, of course, the core of the Middle-earth experience, the movies have now made themselves central as well. How many more minutes of actual screen footage do the 3 director's cut versions of The Lord of the Rings contain over the originals? Rian Russ.
43 minutes.
Ramanda Sil Raef.
So close. 48.
Wrong by more than a factor of 3. That's right, 158 extra minutes.
Oh my God.
The original theatrical release, back-to-back, is 560 minutes long. Now it looks like a waste of time when you list it like that. Well, the 3 director's cuts are 718 minutes long.
Wow.
I did that once. That's frightening. Issue number 2. Another necessary waypoint to the heady hates of geek overlordship is, of course, Star Wars. However, there's a great deal of debate as to the value of the prequel trilogy in the overall canon of the Star Wars universe. In fact, violent arguments have often erupted at conventions, game nights, weddings over the value of the prequels. But no one can deny those intoxicating moments of limitless hope just before Phantom Menace was released. Question: when Phantom Menace was first shipped to theaters to avoid piracy, Lucasfilms mislabeled all of the packages. What was the code name used on all Phantom Menace shipping containers? Mace Windu Wakeland.
Gungan.
Bail Organa Granger.
The Scarlet Witch.
Wrong again! The Dollhouse. Heinrich Gibson would be proud. Issue number 3. Although most view such media luminaries as movie stars, famous musicians, and podcast hosts with awe and fascination, in the end we are all just normal human beings sharing this great orb we call Spaceship Earth. We put our pants on one leg at a time, or those peons we pay to dress us do at any rate. Needless to say, pulling back the curtain and seeing these personages' mundane daily lives is a dream few dare to entertain. Jeez. Question: a Greek word is often translated as mundane in its Pythagorean sense of the physical universe, as its original meaning was orderly arrangement. What stellar Greek word is this? Nikolai Berdurin Russ.
Mundaneous.
Georgi Barakarov Raef.
I have no idea.
Stellar Greek word. Cosmonaut nicknames. Cosmos. Wrong! Issue number 4. Although Middle-earth has no end of bad guys, monsters, and creepy-crawly evil things that wish nothing so much as to destroy the works of men and elves and dash them into the shadows of all eternity, for some reason a great many of the creepiest baddies are the descendants of the terrible Ungoliant, a monstrous spider creature befriended by Morgoth. Question: when looking to create the most infamous descendant of Ungoliant, Shelob, what kind of real-world spider did the Weta Workshop team use? Loxicellus reclusa Russ.
Black Widow.
Statoda grossa Raef.
The wolf spider.
A. That shows that Russ Wakeland has never seen a Black Widow spider.
Yes.
B. Every list should have at least 2 items, or it's not a list. The funnel web, a brutally poisonous Australian spider. Australia, where everything wants to kill you. That's it for now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
This episode of the D6 generation is brought to you by
Battle Foam. Protecting your army so you don't have to.
And the War Store, bringing the war to your door since 1999, and that is for a decade or more.
Hello
Hello there.
Wow. And welcome to episode 169 of the D6 Generation.
Leaving it alone.
Yeah. I'm Russ Wakeland.
I'm Craig Gallant.
And I'm Raef Hollywood Granger.
Hey,
you see, I went with the straight approach.
Are you going through puberty finally?
Is that what happened there?
Hollywood? When it's time to change, you've got to
I think Russ needs a new
rearrange.
mic.
Wow.
Get the third chair a new mic.
I guess so, man. How's it going, Granger?
condenser's
Welcome back to
broken.
the show, man.
Might have been the chair squeaking.
Yeah. might
Thank
have
you.
been.
It's good to be back. We've had lots of activity. I'm excited. We've got lots of exciting topics to cover.
We do. We're going to have another Raef's Roundtable.
Oh,
You know,
yes. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, no,
for
that's a boxing.
Quite
Never
some
mind.
time. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a show with Raef on it if we didn't talk about Lord of the Rings. So
right.
we're going to review the Lord of the Rings, the LCG card game. That's a
That's
living
a
card
living
game,
card
right?
game for those of you who aren't following along at home with
living card
the
game.
FFG dictionary beside you.
Right. But before we get to all that, we should talk about the lost chapters. So we managed to catch up with Mr. Granger at
Actually,
Dunkin' Donuts.
first, we've been begged by several listeners over the past couple of weeks to tell you just basically that the last chapter is not an extension of the show. It's not another segment that's 45 minutes long.
No.
It's actually us letting what hair we have left down.
Right.
And you get way more of an idea of who we are, what we're about. Things might get a little spicy,
Right.
Not language wise, but
No.
seriously, like salsa on the donut,
Right.
And
Salsa on the donut.
So I'm telling you,
Yeah.
And so that sounds painful.
It also sounds a little wrong.
It does.
Not gonna lie. A little wrong.
It does.
That sounds kind of gross.
But you know what?
does,
if that's
right.
wrong, I don't want to be right.
Well, savory and sweet. That's the thing.
Anyway, what's the best way for people to get these lost chapters, Russ?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Craig.
Oh, we're also a little more candid in our opinions.
We
But
are.
Yeah, anyway, go ahead.
So if you'd like to listen to the lost chapters, the easiest, best, most straightforward way is to go to our website, thed6generation.com, and click on the stack of books on the right-hand side. When you do that, you'll get a little page, and it's going to tell you how, the various ways you can do it. We recommend Patreon. Patreon's great because you go there, you donate a certain amount of money per month to the show. It's like a little tip jar. And if you donate at least $2 per episode, we will be happy to hook you up with free lost chapters, which are about, 35, 45 minutes long and just feature us yammering on about random stuff like Raef. Do you remember what we randomed on about last time?
I do. We had a really riveting topic, but we tossed that aside to talk about Star Wars, the prequels, and episode 4, 5, and 6 because, well, you'll just have to listen.
Yes, later in the roundtable, you will hear us get into a discussion that we table and then continue in the lost chapters.
We put a pin in it.
We put a little
if you
pin in
will.
that. Right.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna put a pin right in that.
So it was good fun. It was the kind of thing, that you three geeks sitting around in a Dunkin' Donuts would argue about.
That's right.
So good times. If you want to hear what that argument is like, please tune into that. Now, if you want even more D6 Generation and you happen to be going to Gen Con 2015,
Do it. You know you
then
want to.
we really highly recommend, we would request, we would beg, we would plead, we would love it if you would come to the D6G Play by Mob event. Right? And this year it's taking place on Thursday night of Gen Con at 9 p.m., conflicting with nothing else of import that we know.
That's the way to succeed. Don't conflict with anything.
Don't conflict with big events in the show. No. 9 o'clock at night, Thursday night. Raef, you going to make it?
No, I wanted to say you really should go. If you haven't been to one before, it's a pretty fun experience, I think, for the attendees. I mean, and I normally, when I'm in Gen Con, I always pop by. But this year, I'm taking a break from Gen Con. I got a little Gen Con'd out.
Okay, it'll happen.
I chose Adepticon over Gen Con for my
a lot
con
of
this
drama
year.
in your Gen Con experience.
There can be some drama in Gen Con. It can be tricky. So when you go to the website and you look for our event, and you'll find it there are, what's good this year is it's a bigger venue than ever for us, 120 seats. It's no longer in the hotel way far away in the train station situation. We are now in the Westin Capital
And when
3.
we say there are no poles, we mean there are no support pillars.
No, but there
may or may not be other poles.
Folks from Poland. That may happen.
Oh,
but,
poles from Poland. That's
yes,
true.
but there are no actual
That's where Craig was going, too.
There are no obstructed view seats.
I should have.
So we're very excited about that. You always get to participate in a live
I'm just saying,
recording of the
Phil
show.
seemed really disappointed. He thought we were talking about the pole.
No, we're not. So please check that out.
Absolutely. Weston, capital 3.
Also, Craig, have you got your Extra Life account configured?
I do not.
Okay, well, if you're like Craig and you are procrastinating, do not procrastinate.
Not much longer.
You have a couple options. If you don't want to do Extra Life yourself, go on to Extra Life, search for the D6 Generation, search for me, and then you can either support me, you can support Craig, you can support the show, and if you are doing your own event, sign up to join Team the D6 Generation, and then add your total to ours and have fun, and we'll see how much we can raise to help kids in hospitals. Make sure hospitals have all that great stuff for kids. It's a great way to play games, heal kids, and make sure that those kids who are having challenging times in their life get through it okay and go on to have happy, healthy lives.
By gamers.
By gamers, for gamers. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
So,
by gamers, for kids.
Yes, by gamers, for kids. So, Craig, what's it time now for?
Right about now, it's probably time for Achievements in Gaming.
Bloop, bloop. It is. Oh, my achievement noise was not ready. Let's try this.
But Raef was there.
He was there. Oh, there it is. Good. It's still there. And Achievements in Gaming is brought to us by all of our friends over at Patreon. Thanks to all of our great members over there who help keep the show going every single week. We really appreciate it, guys, over at Patreon. Click the Patreon logo on the D6 Generation website to help out. Thank you. What have you been playing lately, Raef?
Okay, so let's see. I've got 3 months to cover. Craig, go to sleep, and Russ, here we go.
Right.
Okay. No. I catch everybody up in the Hollywood minutes of what I've been going. So in the past 2 weeks, I played Castles of, if it wasn't written there, Russ, I wouldn't know how to say it, Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Yes, Ludwig. Yes, very good.
I very, very much love this game.
Me too.
And I am very terrible at it. I understand the rules, but I don't know how to play it strategically. Literally, Andy felt so bad for me, Craig, last time. He was like, no, Raef, here, buy this, and then put, I'm like, oh. He's like, yeah, I was going to do it and forgot, so figured I'd hand that to you. I'm like, thanks. So I don't win, and I don't seem to care. I'm having fun building a little castle. So if you're one of those people that doesn't mind losing all the time, this is a fun game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And next I played Lord of the Rings, the living card game with Sir Russell, which we'll get into in detail later.
We will.
Maddie Alex broke out Chaos in the Old World.
Ooh, a classic.
It was a classic. I, for the first time ever, played Slaanesh.
How'd you like Slaanesh?
I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I actually wanted to play the game right again, right after we played it, because you got all the rules down, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see what my army can do.
Now, was this the expansion with the Skaven?
Yeah, Matt strangely always seems to end up with the Skaven. I find that to be
it's odd,
a little suspect. Let me see if I can remember the players. Let's see. It was old Andy, Dave, Matt, Raef, and Greg. Greg no longer likes me to refer to him as Greg Ivany. He says I emphasize that too much. So just Greg.
Okay, Greg. Greg I? Can we just call him Greg I? Or Greg,
I don't know. I just call him Greg Ivany. But
we can just call him just Greg.
Just Greg.
Just Greg.
We can do that.
Okay.
So it was fun. We had a good time. And we're playing it at the new Millie's Tavern, too.
Yeah,
that was a new exciting experience. Yeah. Maybe we'll wax on about Millie's Tavern. And then played D&D 5e in our monthly campaign.
Still enjoying 5e?
Yeah, we're having a blast. We've had very thin numbers over the past 3 times. Yeah. It's been Greg Ivany, and then it's been
just Greg. Thank you.
Dave,
just Greg,
and Andy, and that's it. So just the 3 of them for about 3 sessions.
Nice,
and it was okay. We actually had fun. They got a little worried, a little freaked out, so I allowed them to bring a cleric with them. We rolled up a quick NPC cleric.
Cleric! I'm not going a step farther without a healer. That's just,
I got to tell you 2 things. But Russ, have you gone through the complete caravan mission yet?
We are. So, we have not played for a little bit, but we did. So we have not completely gone through the caravan mission. We made caravans out of 3x5 cards, by the way. Great tip. But we played. We have gotten about. I would say we are halfway on the journey of the caravans.
Okay. So anybody playing in this, close your ears. I'm going to give a spoiler, but it's really fun to talk about.
Okay.
Close your ears and come back in 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Russ, there's these, Craig, there's this part in the caravan where they stop for the night and there's a hotel. Yeah. And it says that there's a judge and some magistrates and some academic types, and they're all milling around and they're just kind of bored. And when the characters come in to eat, they're going to be like, nope, can't come here. You got to get out. No room for you. And they're going to bust on them, and they're going to make fun out of them, and they're going to pick a fight. And they're going to tell them they smell like horse manure, and whatever they can do, they want to pick a fight. Now, what's hilarious about this is my group is very combat-oriented. They like to solve most problems with the sword. That's fine. Some people love to play that way. We have a lot of combat-heavy characters. What these characters are, Russ, are assassins.
Oh, yes. I know the scene. Yep.
Yeah. And so there's 5 of them, Craig.
At this level of the campaign, the assassins kind of out-level the guys if you're at the normal
Oh, my
point.
God.
Yeah.
I knew they were powerful.
You're supposed to I think you're supposed to threaten them, but then try to give them outs, kind of thing.
Bing bong. Just keep that in mind. Keep going.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. And so these particular things, since the timer's now up on the spoiler,
yes,
they just opened up a can of you-know-what and just devastated
Did
them.
you have a total party wipe?
Almost. If it wasn't for the cleric, who they played as a heal bot, which that got me kind of upset later. Not at them, but I was like, oh, I missed an opportunity there to role-play an NPC. But
You had an opportunity to do a party kill, man. You should have gone for it.
I just didn't see it. I was so engrossed in rolling out the scenario. But what I really liked about it, still no spoilers, what I really liked about it was, ever since then, Russ, they've definitely had to think twice before they go,
that's good.
Maybe I won't go charging into that. They've and that's been a lot of fun.
Right, nice. It's good to put the fear of God in your players once in a while. You got to let them know that the whole world is not just everything you see isn't just in a box of experience points.
Yep. And I knew when they were like, really, Raef? Are you sure? Because I'm not Mr. Wizard on the rules all the time. I'm like, nope, guys, I'm doing this correct.
No, I'm pretty sure there's actually a clause in that section that talks about the fact that the party will probably lose to these dudes, so right? So,
if there was that clause, I didn't see it. I just role-played out the little segment. And so poor Dave. Dave was the one that set it off. We walked up and I think he did a cantrip that smelled like a fart or something. And I'm like, that's it. They upended their tables and the fight was on.
I'm having a blast with that section of the campaign, Raef. I'm adding a bunch of little things. I keep adding. So my adventure's taking so long, so I keep adding stuff to it. I can't resist to kick it up a notch. And so one of the things I did is, they tell you to describe the different. So the story here, and this is not a spoiler, is the party's traveling with this caravan of wagons
for like 45 days.
They're following some guys that are hiding in the caravan, basically. But the rest of the wagon's just part of the caravan because at this time merchants group together for safety, and they hire various guards. And so the party generally is attached to the caravan as hired guards to protect the various members. So you're looking at the different wagons, and I'm describing them. So I've got this one wagon. Most of the wagons are normal merchants. I think there's one wagon that's all done up as a rolling tavern. It's a tavern on wheels. It's called the Rolling Rum, and it's actually like a little camping wagon.
Oh, they didn't do that one.
No, I made that one up. So it's all in there. And then there's another one in the party in the thing that's just as full of dirt. It's just a wagon full of dirt, and there's this kind of crazy guy who looks a little loopy driving this wagon full of dirt. And they can't figure out why there's this wagon full of dirt. He's like, some places soil is very valuable. You must have it. And what they don't know, and I'm going to whisper now because my girls don't know this, every once in a while they're going along and they're finding these carcasses drained of blood. And so what it is this guy is like Renfield transporting a vampire in the dirt along with the caravan. I haven't figured this out yet. So it's just kind of a neat little side, completely unrelated to the main story. I just throw this kind of stuff in there to see what happens, but
throw a vampire in to see what happens.
A vampire here and there.
I didn't do that. I just stuck to the script as written, and I was a little petrified because again, it's not linear. So they just say there's this encounter, there's this encounter, there's this encounter, there's that encounter. You weave them together as you will.
There's all a bunch of stuff. So I just kind of throw extra stuff in there.
I have to thank a listener, and I didn't think to write his name down, but a listener wrote in and talked about I wish it was DMing could be like a video game, and I could be like, hey, Russ, I know you want to go down that path, but it's like a video game and you can't, okay? Right. And he's like, oh, yeah, here's how you do it. Did I tell you guys this? How he said to do it? Does that ring a bell?
Well, go ahead again, because listeners want to.
He said, he says what you do is you pick somebody. So let's say I picked the monk, and I'm like, and this is what literally happened. They went off a side path. They handled some monsters that fought the caravan, and then they went down and they wanted to go after the monsters. So I'm like, okay, well, you find the cave mouth. Now, I said to Greg, who's the monk, or the fighter, I forget if it was Andy, I said, now, as somebody of your expertise, you realize that this could be a lair that's completely empty and you've already killed the monsters, or it could be chock full with the whole hive. So just know that going in. And that after that, deal with the other groups that can't be named that kick their butt. They're like, okay, let's just kind of nose around. I didn't want them to go any further, so I'm like, 5 webs, go. They're like, okay, we're out.
Yeah.
So it totally worked as the video game wall.
Yeah.
Without breaking character.
I've done something similar. Like they were in a dungeon and they were going too far, and so the ranger's with them. And I'm like, as a ranger and an elf, and they're fighting all these hobgoblins. I'm like, you get to this point, and they're beat up. They're like, I think it's just one more room to the treasure. And I said, you recognize an odor and make a perception check. And she rolled me, you're smelling bugbear. They're like, we're out. Check. So it's kind of awesome. Yeah, you can do that with a party unless they're crazy. But then the way you stop that is you just actually have the fight with the super evil monster and they die. And then you say, okay, let's start a new campaign and remember not to do that again.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
And
that's it for games.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Wow.
Craig, what have you been playing?
Well, I've been having sort of a theme session myself.
Right.
Last week I played Star Wars Armada against Matt with all the Wave 2 stuff. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Except that I took all the cool ships for the Imperium. He took all the cool cards.
Yeah, the card. It's all about the war gear.
It's those cards, and that's like a level I'm still not comfortable with. I haven't like gone over the cards a billion times yet. And so that was bad. That was the worst drubbing I have received in any game in years upon years upon years.
Wow.
I did not do, I think literally, I did 1 point or maybe 2 points of damage on two separate fighter stands. That's all I did.
Wow.
I ended the game because as a pity, like he didn't take shots he could have taken at the end, which I think Matt is developing this, like, you know, like, I don't know. He just doesn't push it at the end like he used to. I had one Star Destroyer with, I think, one hull point on it left is all I had. Wow. He plays, I play like, I feel like I'm playing a totally different game with him than with anybody else.
Yeah.
So that was very frustrating. And then I played Imperial Assault Skirmish against Adam and had not really the opposite experience because I did lose some guys, but I had a very, very similar to opposite experience in that the Imperials just mopped the floor basically, and it was all the army list. It was all the, you know, the units that I took, not so much my strategy or tactics. Adam's a really, really good Malifaux player. He's no slouch, and it's just that the wounds and the wounds they have and the damage they can dish out are, I think, much stronger on the Imperial side, unless you go for more of a themed list. So that was an interesting experience. And then we played 2 Imperial Assault campaign missions, again with Matt as the evil Imperial Overlord. And it's just, again, a totally different experience. Yeah. So it's like what was supposed to be a quick mission where you're in a prison. You have to break out because we lost the last mission. So of course you're in a prison now. It ended up being a 3-hour ordeal. Wow. Where at the end, Matt was very, very generous and was just not taking shots he could have taken to just stretch it out and like literally we gained nothing by winning. Wow. Which is another, I have a huge beef with that, with any game and any mission and any campaign, I mean, that has a mission that you do that you have to do where there's no benefit.
Yeah, this is the block mission. Yeah.
I that's just, to me, that was no fun. And it was like, why are we even doing this? We're just playing to, and there wasn't a lot on the table for him either. I think it was too experienced for him. Mm-hmm. So, and he's already drubbing us in any mission that matters. So, which makes me suspicious. And yeah, so that was rough. And then we won that one. By a certain definition of winning.
Like what would make it better?
What would make it better would be if I had like 3 Matts on my side.
Yeah.
And
are you calling Gabe and Christian dumb? Basically?
No, I am by far the slowest member of the team. I'm just saying, if I was playing my thing, I would assume I would have to.
You just need to play more in our campaign because apparently my players are all like.
I don't know. Maybe we need to switch. They should go against Matt, and we should go against you.
Yeah, or maybe I'm just a terrible overlord. I don't know what.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's a Matt Alex thing. I mean, he's very smart. He understands the Matrix, and he plays to win.
No, yeah, I think there's a lot, like any campaign where things build, if you made bad choices early on or you just had bad pulls for treasure early on, you're not going to be as advanced as somebody who the Imperial side has no randomness whatsoever to their advancement.
But
he's buying cards.
No, I'm not saying
that, Russ.
They have random. There's a deck you build and you draw from to see which kind of advancements you get. It's the same, almost the same. You have the upgrade cards, and then you have the ones for the what do they call it? It's where you get the different missions and things
like
you
your
choose
theme.
From. Yeah, so there's a random thing like the search, like the items deck, and then there's also just the upgrades, which you get like your race, your faction.
But Russ even admits that he plays it more dungeon style. He's a little bit more interested. He wants to be competitive, but he wants people to just have a story and a narrative.
Well, at this point, I lose so often that I just try to win. But yes. but if I were, so I don't have that problem. My heroes are. Right. But Craig's played in our group, and he's noticed that our heroes seem to be more, in terms of not the players, but the actual heroes as they've upgraded, seem to be more powerful in his own group's heroes. So I'm not sure what happened there, but maybe they got better luck on the search things. Josh is a searching machine.
Oh, yeah.
Who's in our group. Like, he always searches everything, always finds it. He always gravitates towards the heroes in Descent or this game where he can get bonuses for searching. So he's always got, like, tons of gear. So I don't know how that impacts anything, but it seems like they always have lots of money and lots of gear.
Yeah. I don't know how they're doing it, but they had a lot cooler. Now, I got an awesome gun last night, but that was after, like, playing the actual mission and getting our butts handed to us.
Oh, well.
So it was like 1 3-hour slog that was the victory was like, oh, okay, yay, we did it. And one like brutal crushing defeat where it was like,
those are so fun.
So we get 1 experience point each and 100 credits. But apparently we had saved up enough money that it was pretty much acknowledged in our party that I had the weakest weapon. And I'm the sniper, so that was kind of frustrating. So I got this amazing, it throws 2 red dice and has 6, accuracy built in.
Yeah, my guys throw more green dice than should be possible by the end. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any of, that's another thing. I'm not even seeing the equipment your guys have.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't even know where they got it from, but it's amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, so we've got 2 more missions and we're done. And so we're playing it. But sadly, I think at this point, we're playing it so that we can say we finished it, not because we're super excited.
Well, that's a shame. So you guys aren't going to play it again.
It is a shame.
Yeah, and
I, like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with the choices you make early on versus, but then it's that Matt factor. If you've got a guy who I honestly think is so much better than your average gamer.
Correct.
And that's the guy that's in charge of the
evil.
He's the evil overlord. Then it's going to have. I would recommend if you're starting a campaign and you have a guy like that in your group, don't make him the overlord. 2 things. Don't make him the overlord and don't let him run other people's characters during the missions. So then his impact is limited to his model, which is as it should be. And everyone else can maybe have a more balanced experience. Because I don't see any, other than doing a mission where, I'm sorry, but I think I should at least get 1 experience for successfully breaking out of prison.
Feels like you should.
I think that's, something. That's something. Anyway, and then today was an awesome day, mail-wise, because we got a huge package that I'll talk about in a little bit in other. And then...
These sound good.
I got my Russ got playmats for Star Wars Armada from where'd you get them?
Frontline. Yeah, Fat Mats. Frontline.
Fat Mats.
Yep.
And I got mine. Mine are more expensive. I got them from Inked Playmats. Mm-hmm. They had a big Memorial Day sale. And so I got mine. I tweeted a picture of it out. It's amazing. It's the Eagle Nebula. You can basically send them any public domain picture and they will make mats out of that for you. And they did it for me, so it's stretched out over 2 3x3 mats. So I've got, 2 3x3 or a 3x6 for Armada. I got that today. It was awesome. I had already agreed to play.
Can you break that down in case people want to do that? So how do you order it to make it a board?
Go to Inked Playmats.
Yep.
.com.
I'm there now. But what size do you get?
There's a 3x3 option.
Large 36-inch mat?
Yep.
That's it.
Okay.
And you just get 2 of those.
Okay.
And in instructions, you send them a picture and you say, They'll do all kinds of stuff. They'll do stuff for your card games, Rafe. They do all kinds.
Oh,
of
I've
stuff.
got one for Latro that Russ and I played on.
Yeah. It's
was awesome.
Now it's expensive, like I said.
Worth
But
every
they
penny.
they had a great sale for Memorial Day, so I got it for about $10 more than Russ paid for his fat mats. But I didn't get a really cool case with mine either. I'm gonna have to go buy one of those from Staples. But it was awesome. It's beautiful. It's exactly what I wanted, and I had already agreed to play Attack Wing, D&D Attack Wing with Reese this evening, and so I was like, hey buddy, look what I just got. This is pretty. He's like, oh my god, Dad, that's awesome. I was like, yeah, why not play the X-Wing game instead? Oh yeah, so we played X-Wing.
Nice.
So that was cool. We had a quick little game of X-Wing before bedtime. And that's my games. What about you,
Well
Russell?
done. Well, I'm finally able to play games again, so
Oh,
I was
that's
able to break out. So I gave Adam a similar drubbing to what seemed in Star Wars Armada that you experienced with Matt.
Uh-oh.
So
Which says to me, you need to play Matt. That's what that
yes. Well, so what happened was, so I had gotten all the expansions. Adam does not. Adam has the core set, but I offered him to use any of my models he wanted. And he wanted to play the Rebels. He's been getting into the Rebels, so he's like, no, I'm going to stick with the core stuff. So he just borrowed some of my other core stuff to make his fleet again, 300 points, and I made. So I wanted to try all the new fighters. So I basically had my 100 points of fighters was all the interceptors, all the TIE Advanced, both squadrons of TIE bombers, Darth Vader, and then Howler and like one TIE fighter squadron just to fill out the total points.
Yeah.
So a lot less fighters than normal, but they're all high tech. And then I took the Class 2 Star Destroyer, and I took the new the Gladiator class Star Destroyer. The one looks a little different. That
one, yep.
And so then he got to pick the mission, and so he got to pick one of my 3 missions, and I picked all completely evil missions. This game does completely come down to the mission.
What's the missions do again?
Oh, well, they create. So here's what happened. He chose the one I was hoping he would choose, which was Hyperspace Assault. So in Hyperspace Assault, the other player, being me, gets to choose one of his capital ships, his medium-sized capital ships, which the new Imperial ship is medium. I could take that out of deployment and up to 3 fighter squadrons. So I took that out, 2 TIE bombers out, and Lord Vader himself. Now, Lord Vader has an escort rule that says if you're attacking anybody within one distance of Vader, you must attack Vader instead. So basically, I've got 2 squadrons of TIE bombers, which are awesome against capital ships, escorted by the Lord of the Sith himself, meaning you got to deal with Lord Vader to take out these TIE bombers. They're all hovering around this new capital ship that is a mean capital ship at close range. And I was able to do all this because I was able to take
pretty deadly.
The new Admiral, who's dirt cheap, and just let you roll. So I took my Victory class ship. I also tweaked it out with a bunch of cool cards that give it better side batteries. And then I went to battle. So now the disadvantage is, so here's what happens in this mission. You get 3 tokens as the guy who's coming from hyperspace, and you put them anywhere on the outside edges of the board, outside of the deployment zones. These are places that I can come in out of hyperspace. And at the start of any turn after 1, I can either deploy my squads at one of these tokens, the guys that are in reserve, or I can move all the tokens a distance of 1, so they can kind of move around. So basically I'm fighting him, and I'm going to come out of hyperspace. Now, Rebels really need to flank you, and they really need to attack you from the back. I don't care which Rebel ship you are. I don't care how good you think you are. What you must not ever do as a Rebel player is charge right into the front of an Imperial Star Destroyer at short range.
No.
All the Rebel ships their best defense is evade, and evade does not work at short range. If you get within short range of an Imperial Star Destroyer, you're going to regret it. So, but Adam decides, but wait, half of Russ's fleet is stuck in hyperspace. I should hit him early. So that with any regard, and also,
Makes sense.
He didn't want to flank, because to flank, he would have to go wide and go right near all the places I was going to come out of hyperspace. So he stayed in the middle of the board, and he charged right into the teeth of my main Star Destroyer. Well, the other disadvantage he had was that I was able to set up terrain first, and I put the star base on my side of the table. So my one Victory Class 2 Star Destroyer pulls forward and parks in the star base. Well, it doesn't park, but it's moving speed 1 slowly across the star base. His ships come flying in. His first ship gets real close. He realizes that this Star Destroyer throws 6 dice forward. Plus, he timed it when I had already done the order for the special order. So the special order let me roll an additional dice, so I'm throwing 7 dice forward. I rolled beautifully, which every single dice was a hit. One die was 2
or
hits.
more.
Yeah. So basically, he was taking 9 hits, and the one die that was eliminated defense thing eliminated his ability to transfer power damage. And because he couldn't evade because of point blank range, you do 9 points of damage to a enemy ship, and it just pops. It doesn't matter what the level is.
Sounds pretty devastating.
Boom. The other problem he was doing is he was going by my capital ship. He'd park right on the line between the bow and the side, which meant that I could fire at the same ship with my forward batteries, which is 6 dice, and then my side battery, which is normally 3 dice, but because I had improved batteries, it was 4 dice. So literally it was like volley, ship destroyed, next turn, volley, ship destroyed, next turn. He only did 1 point of damage to my capital ship, and that was by accidentally ramming me. And the next turn, the starbase healed it. So the other thing that worked really well in the squadron was that when we engaged his X-Wings, and I managed to engage all of his X-Wings, I had TIE advances in amongst TIE interceptors with Howler. So the TIE advances have the escort rule like Lord Vader does, which means if you want to shoot somebody and you're engaged the TIE advances, you must shoot the TIE advances. TIE advances have 5 wounds. They're like X-Wings. So basically, his X-Wings are all shooting the TIE advances. They knock one squadron of TIE advances down to 2 wounds. And then all the TIE interceptors in my turn get to go and they start shooting. The TIE interceptors throw 4 dice base. They are next to Howler, who gives them an extra die, so they're not throwing 5 dice. And because they have Swarm and other people have Swarm, they're throwing with a reroll. So they're throwing 5 dice with a reroll. X-Wings explode everywhere. He concedes the game at the bottom of turn, essentially top of turn 3, with only 1 flagship up, which is badly wounded and nothing. I've lost nothing. I have 1 TIE advance down to 2 wounds, and everything else is fully healed, except my shields are down on the main Star Destroyer. It was awesome. The only regret I have is that the ship came out of hyperspace and just looked scary, but didn't have to do anything because the rest of the fleet died horribly. So it definitely shows the Rebels are definitely are nastily powerful, but they've got to get around the back. You cannot go in a direct assault. And mission is huge because I think I'm really convinced that mission and the timing of the mission had him do something that he otherwise would not have done. So the mission does definitely change the play style a lot as well. And I think that the ability to choose the missions and then force your opponent to pick from a bad choice of cards is a big deal. Also, he went intentionally with a lower point value fleet, so he got player 1 and he got to choose the mission, but he had to choose it from my set of cards, and he didn't like the other 2 even. He liked the other 2 missions even less. So it was really interesting. I really enjoy it. I think that game's fantastic. He had a blast while he was dying horribly. He's like, "Oh, this just makes me want it," because he's the kind of guy like when he loses, he often makes it to the list. So, right. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I'd like to see a game between you and Matt.
Yeah, I think that might have to happen soon. But Matt, I have no doubt that I would lose to Matt. But it's a lot of fun. I like the game a lot. It's a lot of flexibility. I love how the new ships work. I love how now the flexibility of a second star ship, and I love how all the new advanced fighters feel different. They don't feel like just another flavor of the TIE fighter. They all have a great role. I wish I could have seen my TIE bombers get closer so they could see how they worked. But yeah, I really, really liked it a lot. So then I played Coup with the expansion, which is that great. I like that game more than Werewolf. I think it's a lot of fun. And then finally with Raef, I played 2 more things. I played Lord of the Rings, the card game with Raef twice. More about that later. And then I also played Castles of Mad King Ludwig. And Raef, I really like this game a lot. I like this so much. I went out and ordered it.
Wow. I want to order it too.
It's really great. I like the theme of it. And my family, having been to some of Ludwig's castles, really got it, is into the idea of it. So I can't wait to play it with them. And I liked it because I was seeing like some of the rooms are right out of his various castles. So like, oh, that's cool. There's the little, there's the grotto and all that. So it's really neat. I like the building of it. I love how one of the things that's tricky is the victory objectives are variable each game. So you got to really watch to see what you're trying to do. So it's not always the same path to victory. And the second part is interesting is players control what the cost of each room. So the one player gets to pick each round where the prices for each room are. So so the market controls the pricing, and it's really based on what you perceive who wants to buy what. Because when you're setting the prices, you're getting the money people pay for the room. So you're trying to guess how much will Raef, I know Raef really, really wants a downstairs room, but is he going to really pay $10,000 for this downstairs room? Because if I make it too high, no one's going to buy it. I'm not going to get the money. If I make it too low, I could have gotten more money for it, or I might be giving Raef enough points to win the game. So it's really this complicated, sort of really interesting player interaction, almost poker-like situation where you're trying to figure out what everybody really wants. So
that's what almost maybe how I might be putting words in Craig's mouth here, but maybe how Craig feels with Euro games and choices, how I feel with this. I don't find it frustrating, but I don't take too much time in this phase because it would take me too long to analyze, and I don't want people to be like, okay, hurry up. So I'm just like, I kind of know Chris wants these. I don't know. It's a big round room. That looks complicated. Blah, blah. And I think that's why I don't do so well.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about modeling? Raef, what have you been doing for modeling?
I haven't been doing anything for modeling, and I'm okay with it. It's not even that I'm angry about it. What have I been doing in place of that? I did brush the dust off my X-Wing fighters, too. For some reason, I have an urge to want to play those, and I'm running down a flight stand issue. So I've lost some of my, those clear flight stands. Mm-hmm. And apparently, you can't just get them. Like there's not a little package that you can buy from Fantasy Flight Games. Apparently, if you email them nicely, maybe they'll. And I'm not faulting FFG at all because, if they don't want to put them out, that's fine. But apparently, if you email them, they might sometimes be like, "Oh, here you go," just to be nice, which I just did, which I hope they'll do. And so I looked at the Litco ones, but they're not the same. They're totally different with different add-ons. I'm like, no, I don't want that. And then I researched other ones with magnetics, but they look really big and clunky, and they're kind of telescoping. So one person I searched, and one person said, use plastic Q-tips. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That'll be great. And somebody's like, yeah, but isn't that a little weird that they're blue? And I'm like, actually, I think that's kind of cool because it's kind of like an electric blue. But somebody else was like, well, just spray paint them black or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea too. So, Craig, they fit in the bottom base perfectly. But they don't fit in the juncture up top.
Pin them.
What do you mean?
Pin them. Drill a little hole in the peg and drill a little hole in the bottom of the ship. Put a metal wire in there, like you pin a miniature,
and then thread that into the.
Well, you just pin it like you pin
Q-tip?
a model. Yeah, just pin it like you pin a model, right? So you drill a little hole in both bits, and then put a little metal wire in there.
I guess I don't have the right diameter for that. I guess.
I mean, how big is it? It must not be much worse than like doing a sword on a model.
If you remember too, Russ, the other challenge is the ship connectors have that slot so that they can be oriented the right way.
Yeah, you're going to lose that. Just pin it.
So that's the other challenge.
Yeah.
So you're saying drill that out, find the right.
Go to a hobby shop, get the florist wire of different gauges, find the one that's going to work.
But what I'm noticing is the diameter in the base is thicker than the diameter up top, even by pinning.
Yeah, I think you have to glue it. I pin it and glue it, I think, but.
Anyway,
your mouth may vary. Yeah.
So believe it or not, I mean, I probably spent like 5 hours on this.
Wow.
Yep. We're trying to search. Finally, I just broke down and emailed FFG and be like, "Hey, if
Send
you
me
could,
some flight
I
stands.
sure would like some more stands."
Right. What about you, Craig?
Well, let's see. I got that Games and Gears battle board, the Hawk War Games 28mm Urban War board, which is the base of a board gaming board, 4x6 foot war gaming board with streets in it and everything. And the streets are all painted black with white lines, and they look very cool, way cooler than anything I could ever do. But the rest of the board is bare. So I masked off the streets, and there's also some cool brick sidewalk areas too. And there's like a pond/park area that you kind of have to fill in on your own to try to. You can do a bunch of different things with that tile. They're 2 foot by 2 foot tiles, like the GW ones. And so I masked off the streets and then everything but the brick, and I just spray painted the brick with ruddy brown. Just regular right off the shelf from Walmart. And then I gave that a light gray wash, and it looks exactly like brick, which is the trick that I learned when I was doing all of those dust warfare buildings. So that's going to match all those dust buildings. And then I masked off the brick and then spray painted the rest of the board gray, dry brush it really quickly. This whole thing took me one day, and it looks really cool. I'm probably going to tweet out some pictures tomorrow, if I can get them from one device to another. So that was very cool. And then I put all of my Dead Zone terrain on it, and I do have enough Dead Zone terrain to make a whole urban board, which is cool. And then I've got some bunch of other stuff coming that's going to make it a really cool. I can make it really dense urban board. And then I finally finished the second half core for my Planetfall Directorate forces.
That's the Halo game.
So that's the game by the company that is doing the Halo game.
Okay.
It's the 10mm ground combat sci-fi game.
Yeah, Planetfall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so that's very exciting. I really like the way it came out the second time around, now that I fixed everything that I was making a mistake of, and longtime listeners who have listened for at least a month and a half will remember back when I screwed up that entire box set. So I fixed it, and that's good. So that's what I've been doing lately. Russ, what have you been doing?
Well,
has it been modeling?
No, it's been assembly. Well, assembly counts. So I've done assembly on the new fighter ships.
Right. I'll give it to you.
But so and I had a mental debate. So the challenge is on the Darth Vader flight stand.
You made a mistake.
No, I didn't make a mistake.
Yeah,
no, I thought this through very carefully.
Oh boy.
So I was debating with
Here
Adam.
comes.
So here's a scoop. So in the new expansion pack, which comes with all the new fighters, one of the things you get 2 squadrons of advanced TIE fighters, which are the ones that look like Lord Vader's fighter in the original trilogy, right?
Yeah.
Now, both of these come with 2 stands of 3 TIE advances. Now, for making Lord Vader's flight stand, I really wanted to put 1 TIE advance on there and then 2 little regular TIE fighter
And
models,
why didn't you do that?
so that Lord Vader would be escorted by 2 TIE fighters, just like he was in A New Hope. However, the problem with this is that clearly in A New Hope, the TIE Advanced was a brand new prototype, only one of it in existence, and so Vader flew it. Now, since there are additional squadrons of TIE Advances, wouldn't it make sense that
what you're hearing now, ladies and gentlemen, is spin.
No, the Dark Lord of the Sith would not be escorted by 2 ancient TIE fighters when he's got another whole squadron of TIE Advances. He'd be escorted by 2 more TIE Advances. Why wouldn't he be? So that is why Lord Vader is escorted by 2 TIE Advances in my.
I can't believe you took 24 hours to come up with that.
No, that's actually the debate I have.
So I'm missing
you can
a
ask
little
Adam.
bit, Craig. Did he overpoint you or something?
No.
It's such fluffy. It's just models.
No, right. It's just
I don't
models.
get it though. What are you talking about?
When you play
modeled
me,
something-
Rafe, when you play me, Darth Vader looks just like he did in the movies.
Right.
Okay.
And as long as look,
Russ has this big, long, elaborate excuse for why his doesn't look like
as
that.
long as you don't field an additional squadron
okay.
of TIE Advances, you're fine. Because you can be back in time when there was only 1 TIE Advance and it was Lord Vader's. The problem is when there's 2 squadrons of TIE Advances, now Lord Vader is just not being escorted properly. That's
whatever.
The thing. Just saying. These are the
FYI, this is kind of what the Lost Chapters are more like.
This is kind of what they're like.
Whatever. And without the really, I can only imagine how obnoxious the sound is.
Pretty obnoxious.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's probably pretty much. But it is a good spin sound, don't you agree?
All right. All right. What about other TV shows, movies?
You have
Dr.
brushes?
Granger?
What's that?
Yeah, what's brushes?
Oh, yeah. No, I got the new brushes from Games and Gears.
Oh, the
right?
Games and Gears.
Oh,
brushes.
they are so sweet. I haven't tried. I cannot wait. So I'm going to paint this weekend. I'm going to try them out. And I'm going to let my daughter try some of them too. They look fantastic. I love the little rack, and the detail level on these things looks really good. So I cannot wait to try them out. So more to come on those things. Look really cool.
Yeah. I've been enjoying.
Are they the thin, narrow tips or the broad, fat tips?
Both.
They're both, and the brushes all they're 2-part. So when you store them, you unscrew the handle, and it's in 2 parts, and you flip it over, and it goes over the brush, so it protects the brush.
Yeah, I remember.
So it doesn't jam.
I'm worried about that though, because you really want to leave them unstored for a while so they dry out completely before you do that, or they'll get mold.
Right. Well, that's why the rack is there.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rafe, what have you been watching for shows and comics and books and whatnot?
Okay, so pretty good other section. I'm looking forward to the 3rd iteration of the Batman Xbox One games, or Xbox games.
All right.
And this is Arkham Knight. I do not know if they're going to produce it for 360, but Arkham Knight is the game that I wanted to buy an Xbox One for. So it was supposed to be released a while ago, real close to the one being launched, but like most video games these days, it got pushed, so it's still not out yet. I'm not on the edge of my chair necessarily about it. They're raving about the Batmobile being in it, and that's cool. Except I don't do well with driving games. So if it's a complicated driving game, like and the missions involve racing between point to point to point, that won't sell it for me. But the combat in it is pretty fun, and so when most people play the game and they're like, yeah, it's just a button masher, I'm like, that's why I like it, because it's not that complicated. It's kind of soothing when I play it. Then I'm reading a book by Seth Godin that somebody sent to me on Audible, a friend of mine, a BNI member, And I love that he sent it to me, but I suddenly can't remember the name. I think it's called the Icarus Problem or the Icarus Solution. I'm not sure what the second part of the Icarus is. And I'm only like a chapter in, but so far I like it. It's been a good read. I'm reading a series of trade paperbacks called Batman Black and White. These are really, really, really cool. These are old. These aren't new necessarily. I don't mean old 60s old. I mean old, like maybe
Who
5,
wrote
6.
the Icarus book that you're talking about?
Seth Godin.
Seth Godin. Okay.
Yeah. Batman Black and White, what they are is they take artists and writers not necessarily from the comic world.
The Icarus Deception.
There we go.
There you go.
The Icarus Deception. And they take artists and graphic artists and different writers. Some are famous comic people and others are just maybe famous graphic artists. And they write and or draw a Batman comic. And in black and white, and each one is about 3 to 4 pages long. They're non-serialized, so you just get what this creator's 3-4 page story of a Batman is, and you just kind of read them all in a row. So that's been really cool. My local comic store, Brett and Justin over there, and Chris at Double Midnight Comics said, I was like, hey, I'm looking for some stuff that I might have missed in the past to read. They said, have you read Spider-Man: Blue? And I was like, because they know I'm a Spider-Man fan. I was like, nope, never heard of it. And that's done by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Jeff's the artist. And pretty famous series of books. And I read the Spider-Man Blue one, and I was like, meh. I was kind of meh on it. And what they do is they take a pretty well-known storyline, but one that's never been written about before, and they sort of expand it. And they do that through a 6-comic arc. I thought it was okay. After that, I read The Long Halloween, which is a Batman version of the same thing. And that one was really good. And then I read, that's done by the same art writers. And then I read one called Hulk Gray, and that one is awesome. That I highly recommend it. Russ, I think I recommend it so much that you might actually like it.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if I like it because I'm not that much of a Hulk aficionado or fan, so I don't know the lore that much. So it was a new storyline for me. Iron Man makes an appearance. The art is fantastic, and it takes place right in the Marvel universe between issues 1 and 2.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. They also have Daredevil Yellow, which I have not read, and I think they have Superman Red, but I'm not sure about that.
Oh, cool.
I've been reading this comic called Revival. That's in the vein of weirdness, zombie weirdness, but nothing like Walking Dead. Highly recommend it. I've talked about it in the Hollywood Minutes before, so I won't repeat it here. That's produced by Image. Been reading Walking Dead, doing that digitally. And Craig, I got to watch maybe the first half of Birdman on my plane out to Tennessee. I was recently at a bankruptcy conference.
Fascinated. Can't wait.
I really, really, really liked it.
It doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Okay, good. Because I haven't seen the ending yet, though. But because the plane landed.
That's point A.
Yeah. The plane landed, so I didn't get to follow up on it yet. But I'm wondering if I liked it because you didn't. So I wanted to.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I actually I want to rent it and see the second half of it.
Well, I highly recommend you do.
All right.
I'm at the part where Ed Norton sort of kind of made the move on the daughter at the roof. That's the part.
Yeah, there's a few scenes on the roof, but I think I remember that one.
Yeah, am I near the end, or you can't remember?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
No.
I like Michael Keaton though, and I don't know.
I've never said my problem was with the acting.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of digged it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So if you're crazy like me and I haven't seen the ending yet, go watch Birdman.
If you like free jazz drumming, that's.
Oh yeah,
free jazz drumming. There you go.
There's Russ. There's literally a jazz score, drumming, and everything right over the whole movie. Right, Craig?
Yeah, and every now and then you walk by the drummer on screen.
Yeah. It's cool. I like it.
All right. It's just a different angle. Artsy, right? Would you describe this movie as artsy?
Very artsy.
Okay.
Yes.
See, so that tells me a lot there about why one of you likes it, one of you doesn't.
It's artsy. It's very masturbatory theater people-ish.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is a category that I detest, like out of the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, American Pharaoh. No, sorry.
What? Wow.
Triple Crown. Sorry.
All right. Anything else there, Mr. Granger?
Nope.
All right. Craig, what about you, sir?
Yes. Okay. Let's see. I'm still listening to A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm literally 45 minutes away from finishing Storm of Swords, which is book 3.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that's the payoff book.
Yeah.
That is the book where everything happens. All the big battles happen. All the big murders happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything happens in book 3. That's the big payoff. That's when Jon Snow becomes... I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's been out for 100 years. The Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Right.
Like, every big major plot point culminates in that book, and then it just starts to unravel. And the part of the main problem is half of the best characters aren't even in the next book.
Mm-hmm.
They have to wait 800 pages and almost 10 years for some of us before they see any action at all, and then the action is basically spinning their wheels.
That's why the TV show has saved us all.
And the TV show in particular is now like I'm watching the TV show, I'm listening to Storm of Swords, I'm going, how come stuff is happening in the 5th season of the TV show that's happening in book 3 of the series? Oh, because not a heck of a lot happens in book 4 and 5.
Right. Well, it's all intertwined because there's stuff happening that happened in book 3, but then also hasn't happened yet in book 5.
Right.
And then so it's like beyond. It's all because Martin does so much bouncing around in the books. They've tried to go more linear in the show to make it more comprehensible.
No, I think time-wise, it bounces back and forth because of the characters.
Right, that's what I mean. So like they're
not
showing
in book 3, but at the end of book 3, yes.
So he's doing what they're doing in the show is making it happen linearly, and in the books you didn't see it until 5 because they flash back and show you. But here in the show, they're just showing it as it happened.
Yeah,
flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm loving it, and I'm dreading. Like I'm like, oh my god, I just realized that I now have like 50 hours of listening before I get any Tyrion.
Yeah.
Like, how could he? An entire book with no Tyrion.
Yeah, it's a crime.
Except for like
Splashes.
mentions every now and then when other people are near where he is.
Yeah.
So that's bad.
Finished
the last 2 Jim Butcher Dresden Files novels.
Nice. There you
So
go.
now I'm all caught up. I had to tell you, the second to the last one, whose name escapes me at the moment, was what I was reading the last time we did achievements, and it kind of underwhelmed a little bit. And I was talking about, when we were talking with John, I was talking about how it was more meta, and it was more setting him up as more like, how do you fight a monster and not become a monster, blah, blah, blah. Skin Game, the latest book, brings it all back to classic Dresden. It was awesome. I was staying up later than I'm supposed to stay up to read. I mean, I was reading longer in each session than it was just, it's awesome. It's amazing. I don't care who you vote for in any election ever or what your personal politics are. He deserved to be, there's all kinds of horrific ugliness going on in sci-fi fantasy publishing right now. But he got nominated for a Hugo for best novel. And I think so deserved it. It was
I can't wait
the best
to catch up.
Dresden in a long time. I can't
remember where I left off.
It took me a while to figure out where I left off also. I just finished my first, and I'm not like in the same category, and I suck. So let's put it out right there. But I did finish it, and now I'm editing it, and it's 175,000 words, which is ridiculous, and my ears are bleeding.
Is this your novel?
Yeah, my
That's awesome. When I saw you tweeted that out, that's
ridiculously huge. Thank you.
Well, tell us more about it. Is Romeo publishing it? You have your own publisher?
No, Romeo's not a publisher. Romeo works with the stories for the Wild West Exodus books. The Wild West Exodus books are published by Winged Hussar, Vincent from Winged Hussar, and they will be publishing this book also.
Got it.
So I need to, in the next week and a half, edit. I'm probably 120,000 words of editing away from being done so that I can submit a draft that will then be edited and proofread and gone over, and they'll give me their feedback on what they think. So far, the feedback of my alpha readers seems good, but then I go back and edit it, and I'm like, oh, it's crap. How the hell did they even like this? So I don't know. I think acting and writing are two very similar exploits where you generally, if you're an average person in either of them, think you suck. That's what I think. Yeah. At least I hope so.
I think artists are just hard on themselves. That's what I think.
But anyway.
What's fun about all that?
I don't know.
Sounds torturous to me.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty torturous. There are times when it's ridiculously torturous.
Is it when you see it on the shelf?
I don't know. I mean, it's when people read it and enjoy it and appreciate it.
Well, you're building a world. I mean, the Arthur's.
I mean, I am building an entire actually galaxy right now. Right. So that's very cool. And it's like, role playing, but you get no players going in to mess it up. And your characters go exactly where you want them to go and do exactly what you want them to do. So, I mean, seeing a story, just staying with something that long. It's taken me 6 months to get here. Nothing I've ever written has taken close to this long. It's almost double the size of a Wild West Exodus novel, and it's taking me more than double the amount of time. So it sort of makes sense mathematically, but it's been a long, long slog, and I'm looking forward to. I mean, it's cool working with Michael, the artist who's doing the cover. I'm working with him, so the cover is actually accurate to the story. So there's all kinds of, there's all sorts of cool stuff. And when it's out there, hopefully, if it doesn't suck, it'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be cool then. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Okay. And then let's see. I just watched The Quest. Another thing I have to thank John.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Now, I just want to point out that I told you about The Quest last summer.
But you're you, and he's him.
Totally blew it off, and then John Richards mentioned it, and oh my God, The Quest is awesome.
Right.
Thanks, John.
Well, I gotta say though, I think I'm too demanding as I don't know.
It's not high
the improvisational acting it left a lot to be desired.
It's not high theater, dude. It's
it is not only is it not high theater, but I would say that it. Yeah. There's some King Richard's Fair performers, Renaissance Fair performers that would give some of those guys a run for their money.
I wouldn't even insult King Richard's Fair performers with comparison.
It really bothered me that the main interface character kept calling them guys.
Yeah.
All right, guys, you paladins, come on, guys. Like, what? Seriously? And the end I thought was a huge letdown because. I thought it was going to be some massive event where they're all going to be working together to try an actual, challenge.
Yeah, I know.
And it wasn't. It was a poorly choreographed fight scene.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, seriously? Yeah. If you had what I wanted was some obstacle course that required teamwork to get the woman with the spear, to that last.
Yeah, they could have done a Survivor co-op course.
Exactly, and it was one of those things where you had to leave people behind along the way, and we can sacrifice. I can throw you over this, but I can't make it over, so I'm going to throw you over, and you keep going. That kind of thing, and make it an interesting competition, and then put your build your sequel story onto that as opposed to
a Survivor type of game.
Yeah, it's exactly fantasy? It's Survivor meets LARPing meets Renaissance Fair.
Yes,
is what it is.
Yep.
And there are some aspects that are awesome. There are some aspects that were phenomenal to me because I was like, oh my God, I can only imagine how that would feel if I was in that situation.
Right.
I mean, that's what brought me all the way to the end. That's why I bought into it because I was just like, oh my God, if I was in that situation, I would feel because it's like Survivor if the people were literally pretending they were lost on a deserted island.
Yeah, because the players are all into it. All the players are actually
all the contestants are they're trying really hard to be they're always talking about the one true hero. There's only one guy in the whole season who played it like a reality TV show, and they crushed him like a bug in the fourth episode. Yes. They're like, well, this is not how we play this game.
Right.
Does it is it worth watching if you just new to it?
Yeah, I thought so. If you like reality TV, you'll like it, Raef.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's Netflix.
It's a reality TV show. Yeah.
It's only 10 episodes, 45 minutes an episode.
Right.
Or 12. Is it 12? No, it's 10 because at the end there's two guys and a woman.
But there can be one.
And a chick?
And I didn't say that. Oh. That was your word.
Oh, okay.
Send emails to Raef.
Wow.
And so I thought it was a lost opportunity at the end there where they did this amateur choreographed sword fight scene instead of what it could have been. But I enjoyed it. It was neat. It was fun to watch while I was painting. Game of Thrones. I'll leave that for Russ's thing.
Yeah.
Guild Ball. Okay, so let's see. It started with Owen when we had Owen on. Actually, it started a while ago because one of the designers of Guild Ball, Matt, is a listener. Hi, Matt. And actually sent us an email when his Kickstarter first started. And we get, to be completely honest, we get at least 10 to 15 of those a week. And so they don't generally. Usually, I will try to at least go to the page and see, but even half of those I don't manage. So Owen was on and was like, "Oh, guys, I'm not even going to try to do the accent. Guild Ball is great. It's this great thing."
That's not.
Then we got an email from Bill from Gamers Lounge, and he was like, "Guys, this is serious." And then we got an email from Matt, one of the designers, who was like, "Hey guys, I've been a listener for a long time," which is what everybody says, by the way. But what you have to do is seed some things in your email where we know for a fact you are, in fact, a listener of a long, which he did. So I was like, "Oh, cool, okay, he knows what he's talking about." And he was like, "Yeah, just take a look at it. It's pretty neat." And then he was like, "Let me know, let me know an address or whatever, and I'm going to send you guys some stuff." And I was going to Africa, and Russ was like doing a bunch of business stuff, so that just got dropped. When I came back, there were like 3 emails, another one from Phil, and another one from Bill. Bill was like, "Hey guys, they're really generous. Let me. I can get you some stuff." I'm like, "Well, we're not looking for stuff, but you know what? Matt already offered, so let me look." And so I was like, "Matt, here's my address. Would really love to look at the stuff. The stuff looks awesome online." And so today I got that package, which is why this is in other. And it's an awesome package. Basically, Guild Ball it's soccer in a fantasy setting.
Yes. I didn't want to ask because I figured you guys must have talked about it before.
No,
dangerous soccer.
It's football. Football. And so it's another sports
Football
game,
in the
but
way we call soccer.
Exactly.
Football.
Okay.
And unlike any of these other sports games like Blood Bowl and Chaos Ball, it's not a board game. It's actually a miniatures game that's just played on a 3x3 foot miniatures terrain table.
Huh.
And you're measuring it in inches and you're moving around and stuff like that. The design aspects of it are awesome. The artwork is very kinetic, sort of like very action-y oriented, I guess you'd say. The rule book is awesome because it's landscape. And so it's like, it's bound the spine is along the short side. Which is very cool. And it comes in a little cardboard box. So it's cool. Russ, I think it has 8 factions at launch.
Oh,
so there's that.
It passes the Russ test.
And they sent us 4 factions.
I know. I saw that.
So I sent an email to Russ, and right now we're fighting over who gets what.
Fighting over who gets dibs on what.
And so we're going to paint them up so we can have some so two each, so we can do demos and stuff and see what's going on. So that's very cool. That was awesome. Thank you very much, Matt and Rich from Steam Forged Games.
Yeah.
The models look beautiful. I can't wait. I'm already looking for stuff on the War Store's website that I can use for goals. and there's that. Okay. And then Extra Life. Cool. Here's that obnoxious sound I made when Raef was doing his game section.
The spinning?
That was when I finished signing up for Extra Life.
Yay.
Okay. So I started when Russ public shamed me and I finished when I made that sound. And that was it. So that's it. Didn't take very long at all.
Did you join Team the D6 Generation?
I did. I joined Team D6 Generation and everything. I also joined at Platinum level, which gets me my T-shirt because I like my T-shirts.
Yeah, right.
And that took extra time also. So if you're not interested in the T-shirt, it's going to take even less time. Right. So no excuses. Even I finally did it.
Right.
That's me. Russ, what about you?
All right. Well, I got some good other here. I've had a good doing other stuff week. First of all, Game of Thrones kind of lost me early this season, but I'm back into it now. I think the last 2 episodes, right. the big White Walker attack, I guess that's a slight spoiler, and the big scene with Khaleesi and her dragon were fantastic. Although the hardest scene for me to watch in the series has now been a little small spoiler here: young girl being burned at the stake.
Right. Oh, yes. That sounds terrible.
That was
It was terrible.
That was a hard scene to watch. So
there's a lot of hatred flying around the net over on that too.
Yeah, so I just
blaming the showrunners when in fact they've said that that's based on something George R. Martin said. This is in my notes to happen later on.
Just so everybody knows, bad things happen to all kinds of people. I mean, Theon's down in a pentage and still has all his limbs. So just remember this kind of stuff's going on. So it's just a very bad dark show in a very bad dark time, and bad things happen to everyone, regardless of gender, age, political
Well,
persuasion.
I thought one of the most
point.
interesting arguments against people flying, off the chain on this is that you didn't have any problem when he was burning people you didn't like.
Right.
Like he's been burning innocent characters since the first moment we see this guy. Okay,
Right.
he's letting people
evil.
be burned alive.
Well,
Okay?
yes.
And he's been doing that ever since then. So it's kind of hypocritical to be upset now because he did it to somebody you cared about.
Right.
Which is how I feel. I feel awful and I feel terrible and it made me scream at the TV. I was so angry. So I'm with you. But at the same time, I think it's an excellent point that you can't say, well, he was a good guy. Right. Unless you're like okay with your good guys burning innocent people.
Well, the thing to remember is there are no good guys in Game of Thrones, with the possible exception of Ned Stark, who died like first 15 minutes. Like everybody else, it's probably only because, and he's not even a good guy by his own admission because of all the flashbacks to what happened with the earlier kings. So really, the point of this is everybody's evil. Like there's no or not good.
I disagree.
Well, there might be some people who are good. You could argue that maybe Jon Snow is one of those people, but. Yeah, and that's neat because we could talk about this for a whole lost chapter about why the sword worked.
You know
what I'm talking about, right?
No.
So anyway,
I don't remember. I've read all the books, but that's it.
Supposedly, only dragon glass kills a White Walker. However,
no, they've seeded through the whole thing that Valyrian steel does it too.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I was going with maybe it was only the blade of the Guardian of the North, and now that Eddard Stark swords is in the hands of Jon Snow, who has Eddard's true blood, maybe that was it.
Yeah, but anyway. He doesn't have Eddard's sword, and there's no such thing as a Guardian of the North.
Warden of the North.
Warden of the North, and that's not him.
It is now.
Warden of the North right now is
on paper,
is Bolton,
but not by blood. Not by blood.
Look, the Boltons look great on paper. Okay,
I'm just saying. All right. So anywho, so that's Game of Thrones. But I am liking it, and the effects on the dragon were just awesome. All right, moving along. I am still really enjoying Orphan Black. A couple slow episodes, but now I'm really liking it, probably mostly because they are totally baiting me with their board game references. So Raef, I thought of you in the most two recent episodes. They've had flagrant board game stuff.
Yep.
Remember in season one, in season one they referenced Rune Wars. So
I've never seen it.
So now they had Agricola. They had a whole Agricola thing. And the part that was great about it was there's this recovering character, and she's like, what is this? It's Agricola. And she's like, oh, I'll try it because she's, basically recovering, can't do anything. And she's like, yeah, we're going to pretend to be medieval farmers. She's like, really? So I just thought the whole scene was great. And then in the latest episode, they're panning around the room of one of the major science nerds, and he's got a whole couple shelves full of board games. And if you look really carefully, they're all really cool gamer games. We're checking it all out. So that's just fun. But the show itself is getting back to me. They've introduced yet another character for the main actress to play, who she also nails. Fantastic. So that actress just blows me away. I'm really liking the plot. I'm digging where it's going. I like the show.
Yeah,
I forget. Is this a Netflix original or?
No,
it's a Hulu. I watch it on
American
Hulu.
BBC.
Yeah, but you can watch it on Hulu.
America,
I think you can watch it on a couple other shows. Xbox has it. A couple other places.
Yeah, and they lost me. I don't much care about the male.
Yeah, they pulled back on the males.
Yeah,
they're back on
that's what did it. Like I didn't know that's why I was losing interest until they went back to focus on the original girls.
And now that now that the soccer mom is dealing drugs, oh my god, that whole every part, she's like Tyrion on the show. So any scene with her in it is hilarious. I love that.
Yeah. Is it like a little Breaking Bad there?
I don't know, Russ. Were you a fan of Breaking Bad?
No, but
as a fan of Breaking Bad, I'm kind of going.
No, I've never watched Breaking Bad. So I don't know what it's about.
Yeah.
But what I like about this is she's like, the thing about her, which is crazy, is she's this really soccer mom, and she's doing all the things for the PTO and trying to run for. I can't remember what she's running for now, town council or something. And meanwhile, she's dealing with all this drug selling stuff and the fact that she's got clones and people are dying. And it's just this really, and she's always got her act together. It's hilarious. So I really find her character.
It's
funny.
not exactly Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
In fact, it's very little Breaking Bad other than the fact that she's dealing drugs.
There's just drugs in it.
Soccer
and I'm not sure Breaking Bad can claim fame to the first television show to have drugs in it, but maybe.
I think it was.
Okay.
Touche, Craig.
Yeah.
All right. So also, I'm really enjoying The Witcher 3. I think this is some of the best storytelling I've seen in video games.
Yeah,
in a
you
long
say
time.
that every role-playing game that you like.
No, this is really good.
I'm not doubting it is, but it's
what's
the best.
interesting about it is that they've really nailed the body language of characters in this game.
Oh,
so
interesting.
They don't just stand there and talk, which, while I like Dragon Age, that sort of happens sometimes. They're actually, he's like, you can tell he's frustrated by no words, just how he moves, his gestures.
Now
and when he's
that
talking,
sounds interesting.
He's always moving. Like when he talks to a young child, you'll see him squat down and talk to him. Even in the cutscenes, like they spend a lot of time getting the animations right. Really, really interesting. I'm really liking it. I love the dialogue. Like I said before, the side quests are just as well thought out and well told as many main quests in other video games. And you're making these constant moral choices. And Rafe, this is interesting too. Like, you know, in some of these other games, you get to choose for one or three things to say. And they're different moral choices. In this game, sometimes you'll get a timer on the screen. You got like 15 seconds to figure out what you're going to say.
They do that in Walking Dead.
Kind of neat.
That's cool.
And I really like
mechanic.
the whole lesser evil thing. So there's this constant choices between not any good choices. It's just there's the bad choice and there's the other bad choice, and which one in this situation is worse. And then every once in a while, after you've made a few of these kinds of things and you see the end result, it goes back to this like flashback. He's like, yeah, I never can make the right decision. And it shows like what happened and all the things that were bad. I saved the orphans, but then that led to this and to this and to this and to this. And now good man's dead, you know, kind of thing. It was kind of neat. So it's really cool how they do that. And so I was liking the story so much and found it so powerful. I wanted to find out more about it. So I started researching the books, and I did know the video games were based on books by the Polish author. I'm going to mangle his name, so I apologize.
Brutal.
Andrzej Sapkowski.
But if he does show up at our event at Gen Con, we will have a poll there.
That's right. In any case, the first book he wrote in this came out like 93, and it's called The Last Wish. And it does feature the main character from The Witcher, and it establishes it's actually more of a collection of connected short stories. So it does very much feel like a bunch of side quests from a video game that link together in some way, but they're all separate in the book. So it's almost like reading short stories about this character, but you really get to know him and some other characters. And it's a great foundational book for the game if you want to know about it. But here's what shocked me. This is a fantastic fantasy book. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Cool.
It is very, very good. The storytelling is great. And here's the weird thing about it. It's translated, but man, is the dialogue good. Like really, really witty and very, very funny. It's got a lot of the great political jokes you don't normally find in translated books because they usually lose something in the translation. And what I like about the video game and the book is there's no saving the world here. There's not like, oh my God, doom and gloom, if only the Witcher saves the day. He's just doing his job. And
so
his
it's not
job
high
is like
fantasy.
It depends if you define high fantasy. There are dwarves, there are elves, there are griffins, that's all happening, but it's not the story to save the world. It's just there are these guys called Witchers, there are monsters in the world, people need monsters killed, and Witchers go do that for money. And they have no moral compass, so they kind of do, but they kind of don't. He's fighting that, so it's kind of like that little bit of that vampire thing where he's fighting his unhumanness. But very unique story, very great characters, great dialogue. I really can't recommend enough. And the narrator for this book on Audible is great. And I would recommend, if you have a choice, listen to the audio version. It is so well narrated, so well voice acted. He really nails the humor. He should get a prize for something because he does a fantastic job in this book. So,
what's
Russ gets an achievement for branching out.
The Last Wish by.
Don't worry about it.
Now, if you search on Audible for this book, you'll actually find two flavors of it. You'll find it actually narrated in Polish, and you'll also find it narrated in English.
So be careful.
Be careful, right? You don't buy the wrong one.
Tip. Yeah.
Now, there is a second book that has not.
You know what?
Audible.
You can't buy the. There's one that you can't buy in America. It says we're due to publishing rights restrictions, we are not authorized to sell this item in the country where you live.
But then he just launched this last year. He launched a new series based on this, and the first book in that series is on Audible, and the next one's coming out this summer. So, and that's on Audible now, and I'm going to get that one next. It's
now,
fantastic.
Russ, here I am. Okay,
Yeah.
Peter Kenny.
Yeah.
It's telling me I can't buy it.
You can.
It's telling me I can't. It's telling me that I can't because of international publishing
technology.
rights. If I go in here, if I search for The Last Wish and click it, it's already in my library actually, so it's showing the one I already own. So I don't know how you did that, but there are two. There's the English and the other one, but I do own a copy. I don't know. I'll send you the link.
Let's see if I can.
Yeah, let me put the link in the show notes.
Oh, never mind.
Did you get it? Okay, good. All right. So,
That's weird.
like that one, I'm also listening to, I finished the Finishing School series by Gail Carriger. I just finished the third book. There's a fourth book coming out this fall. Looking forward to that. That is the young reader version, the juvenile, as I would call it, version of the book. And I really like those books, but these were prequels to her more famous series, which I've started reading the first one in that called Soulless, and I'm really enjoying that. And that's actually written for adults. And that Soulless is fantastic. Again, I really like her style. She has a line in there that says, "He has a tendency to speak in italics." I just like that line. That line was awesome. So just a really good writer, really great storytelling. And again, this is a steampunk Victorian era book. And yet there are, and it really takes place in the gentry of the Victorian time. So they're making comments about how not only can you believe I got attacked by a vampire, but can you believe how that cravat was tied? It was ridiculous. It should have been. How can you be at a social function looking like that? It's just that kind of dichotomy going on. It's really interesting.
I didn't realize that the D6 generation had turned into quite the book corner.
Oh, yes. I love our books.
It's like a whole separate segment.
So, Craig, if someone wants to join Audible and read about all this or listen to all this great stuff, how do they do that?
Well, I would go to the D6generation.com and look for the Audible logo in the right-hand margin and click on it. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring you to an opportunity to get a free membership for 30 days and 1 free credit with which you could get Andrew Shklinsky's book or any of the Game of Thrones books or almost any book they have in their catalog for free for you forever. And you get to listen to that as many times as you want for the rest of your life. It also lets you get access to all the different deals that we have that they have running at any given time. So it's an awesome deal. If you go through the website, it helps us out. So go ahead and check it out. And that's how I got into it. Was I thought, I'm going to do it for 30 days and then I'm going to bail with a free book. Yeah,
4 years
and I'm
later.
Still in it today.
Yeah,
and
I think
loving
it's just
it. Never once.
Sapkowski.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's probably much easier.
Yeah, I'm making it harder than it is. So is that achievements?
That's achievements.
The D6 generation. Not as smart as Yoda, but not as dumb as Jar Jar Binks.
Wise, the announcer is. Harrow!
Yeehaw!
Yeah, it's time now to talk about our cowboyest of cowboy games with lasers. Wild West Exodus.
That's right.
Oh,
Wild West
hotness.
Exodus, for which, total disclosure, I write a bunch of books for.
Yes.
Speaking of those books, there's a new book that's going to be coming out soon called Family Blood, which is going to introduce a whole new raft of characters for the Enlightened. So those folks out there who like the Enlightened and they haven't had a chance to get a book that really focuses on them yet, this is going to be it, which is going to be great. You're going to find out why Legendary Carpathian looks like Legendary Carpathian.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is a new release model, by the way. So you can go to their website, wildwestexodus.com, and look up new items, and you'll see Legendary Carpathian. And then in the novel Family Blood, you find out how does that happen to that old man?
Oh, I know, right? And, man, I'm looking at the new models coming out, and they just keep getting better and better. I don't know how the guys over here at Outlaw Miniatures do this, because I'm looking now at the new Holy Order, Auron. How do you pronounce that, Craig? The underboss there. Alt-Cap Auron, is that right?
Alt-Cap Auron,
yeah. He is just like super powered armor sort of thing going on there with like, it looks awesome, dude. Some kind of like high-energy weapon there or something. And then
that's the spiritual energy of the universe. Right there.
It's awesome. And then the sculpts now, crazy good pose sculpts, too, on like the Warrior Nation there. They're just checking out the one guy with his flaming fists of awesomeness. Wow. Good stuff. I mean, look at the new vehicles now, the Holy Order bikes coming out.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more vehicles. The Tumbler.
Yeah. Wow. Good stuff.
The Spear of Light bike.
Loving the sculpts. The Pillar of Light heavy support vehicle. That thing looks like
I don't want to mess with them.
Looks like to get a small moon there. That thing looks awesome. I love it.
Wow, that right there is the technology of ancient Atlantis at your disposal in the Wild West.
It is so cool. Such an amazing universe. Such an amazing background. Such amazing figures. Fast, fun gameplay. You got to go check it out all over at WildWestExodus.com.
Yeehaw!
And now, In an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present... Oh, get on with it. It's time for App of the Ep. Seriously, Wakeland, I used to have my own segment, and now I'm relegating to announcing this pap. Hey, you're lucky we still use you. Hey, and welcome back to another App of the Ep. This time I want to talk about one that sort of took my family by surprise here. And I think it was an Xbox Gold deal, but I'm not sure, but I think it was. I think it was cheap. So Xbox has this thing where every month they pick a couple games to give away for free. But also they give away deals on some of the downloadable small games. And this one happened to be called Beach Buggy Racing. And wow, my kids and I had fun with this. It's essentially, generic version of Mario Kart on a beach. But something about it, just the way it comes together, makes it a lot of fun. And it really captures the essence of why people have loved Mario Kart for years. There's nothing really special or about it. It's really just a polish. So the game races really great. It's split screen up to 6 players. So if you have 6 controllers for your Xbox One, you can have 6 racers at a time. Somehow the way it splits the screen up, so even though there's 6 little screens on your television, it still works. It's still very, very playable. There's a wide variety of cars with their own minor stats. There's different drivers. Each driver has their own one special power once per race. Of course, there's little power-ups you grab as you zip along, and there's missiles and explosions and oil slicks and all the other crazy stuff. Every track's got some crazy shortcuts. All the tracks are fun. And for some reason, it's just the right amount of polish, just the right amount of bouncy wackiness. Makes it a lot of fun to play over and over again. And the 3 of us, my 2 daughters and myself, have played it relentlessly now, really, really enjoying it. Whenever there's friends over, I always throw a couple extra controllers at it and have a blast with it. So this is really a quick, fun one. It also turns out that the exact same game is also available on iOS, and I think it might also be available on Android, and it's Beach Buggy Racing. Just a great little fun game. I highly recommend it. Beach Buggy Racing for a fun game with your kids, or just a fun game if you like those kart racing games and for some reason don't have a Wii around anymore to play Mario Kart. Highly recommend it. If you're looking for something a little more serious, I'd like to throw another one in. Wakeland is 1 per show. I can throw as many in as I like, news guy. The other one I'd like to talk a little bit about, it just came out at E3. It's a great little app for your iPhone. It is Fallout Shelter by the guys who do Fallout. So Fallout 4, obviously big, huge AAA title coming out next spring. They came out with Fallout Shelter, which is essentially, if you've played Tiny Tower and those little management games where people come to your tower and you try to assign them to the right rooms. Well, this is basically that kind of game. Very, very beautiful graphics. It's not 8-bit. It's really high, very, very nicely done graphics. But essentially, you're managing the Fallout Shelter before the big disaster. You're managing the vault, right, where all the people come to live. If you know the Fallout legend or fluff. But the great thing about the game is you don't have to know anything about Fallout to enjoy it also. So if you like those sort of economy managing games, this is a fun little one. The graphics are great. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's very witty. Nice little dark sense of humor here and there too. So if you want a little meatier game, Fallout Shelter. If you want some wacky fun, Beach Buggy Racing on Xbox. And that's it for another App of the Ep. Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the Ep, a segment in which, hey, less of that, more just getting on with the show. Seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class. Hey, well, welcome back. And you know, it would not be appropriate to have Raef on the show. Well, we've done this without doing this before, but I think it's time now.
It's going to say. Then we have been inappropriate so often in the past.
Well, we are nothing if not inappropriate in the show. But if we were to be appropriate in this episode, we would have Raef's Roundtable right here, right now. Raef, are you prepared to lead us in a roundtable discussion, sir?
I am prepared. And you know who got me fired up was Pete, Craig. Pete's been listening to all the old episodes, and he was like, Raef, that Peter Lipton thing you did. He's like, that's hilarious. I was like, thank you.
It is fun experiencing it through Pete's virgin ears.
Oh, yeah, and so he was like, "Can you do that again, really?" And I was like, "I did it twice, and I think the gag is up, you know. But the concept behind Peter Lipton is, of course, still there, which is the round table."
Right. Yeah.
Right. So in this segment, Raef will ask us seemingly random questions with no point to them whatsoever. However, there is actually a point somewhere in the whole thing, right?
Somewhere.
Right there.
Well, this is how we do it. For those of you that are new or perhaps haven't heard a round table in a while, I craft up questions, and they are just questions that literally come to me that I'm like, I got to ask Craig this. I have to ask Russ this. They do not know the questions.
No.
I do that on purpose so that it can't be prepared. No. I then try to drill deeper into any one-word answers that they might give me. And on top of that, then sometimes Russ and Craig's, sometimes I'll say, well, this is what I think about that, or they'll ask me. And only Craig will, and my fellow listeners will understand this. I don't even know the answers to my own questions. So,
yes.
Basically, this is a free ticket for Raef to be a SME.
Yes.
For those Red Dwarf fans out there.
And if we're very lucky, they somehow are tangentially related to gaming.
Yep.
Sometimes.
So the other part that I think is funny, Russ, is you used to get so worried about these, but you've relaxed, right? You're ready to go. You're chilling on this.
Yeah. At this point, I'll take anything that doesn't require me to generate content. So
exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Okay. So, Russ, we're going to start with you. By the way, Craig, not every question is reflexive. So they're not just the two of you. I have separate ones.
Ooh.
Okay.
Russ. Okay.
Yes.
I think I get it.
Why do you get so excited over new games that come out?
I don't know. I think a lot of people do. And I think it has to do with the fact that it's just fun to try new stuff. I think I like the every gamer likes that new box smell and the new getting it open and seeing how it's going to work and what's going to be different about it and how it's going to, maybe change how you game or what you get excited about. And I think you're always hoping that it's just a new passion for you. So I don't know. I like to learn the game and try it out and get everybody excited about stuff. So I don't know I don't know if I can explain it better than that.
Well, I'm going to try to dig a little deeper than that because what I think
drill down.
100% correct. Obviously, it's your answer, but I noticed that you get like you're like, oh, Raef, this is going to be the best, and you rub your hands together in glee, and there's something going on there. I sense. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a every day is Christmas feeling, or with a new game, or does it bring back fond memories of playing games with your brother, or I don't know. Some people are like, then there's a new game. I'm excited to try it. But you get like major excited, wouldn't you say, Craig?
Not like just because it's new. I mean, there are new games that he doesn't care for. But if there's a new, like if he's got a choice between a new game he's interested in and an old game he knows he loves, he'll go with the new game he's interested in for sure.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Is there a deeper thought
psychological?
Just like, I don't know, man. The new game comes out, I like it.
I don't know. It's a game. It's usually something that's got me. Like if you think about Imperial Assault, right? So I know. Here's what happens to me. I think I like. So in my real job, quote unquote, I build software for a living, and part of being an engineer or being into software is you're constantly trying to. What we call iterate and improve whatever you've built before. So you take lessons from what you've done and you improve it. So I wonder and the fact that I enjoy doing that, so when you build software, a couple things about that. You never are done.
Yes,
you're always improving it. And so what I look for is games, and I think games I got really, really excited about, because I do play a lot of games for a long time, if you look at the number of games I've played. But what happens is...
you love them and leave them, but if there's something new, you're excited.
But it's probably the same reason I get very excited about a new faction in War Machine, and I went off after the sisters there, or not the sisters, but the
Angels?
Maiden of the Gears, right. Because I get into that, and I'm like, oh, this is like a new refinement of the game. Or when Mark II comes out, or when they redid Malifaux, I'm like, or version 2 of Dystopian Wars, because I like the foundation of it. I'm always excited to see how they're going to improve it. And board games are the same way, like Imperial Assault. It was great to see how they improved, and they really did improve Descent. It wasn't just, putting a Star Wars wrapper on it, but we've already talked about in the show how they really made it better. And so I'm always looking for like, okay, how can they improve a co-op game? How can they integrate, like how can XCOM, the board game, really improve the co-op experience? Can they really bring an iPad into it and not make it feel tacked on? Is it possible at all to make Agricola interesting? These are the kind of questions I ask myself every day. So, by the way, Raef, I have a roundtable question for you. I I thought of you the other day.
Uh-oh.
Watching the show Orphan Black.
I've heard about. Oh, you talked to me about that show.
So,
I want
Craig,
to watch that show.
Are you caught up on the latest season?
No, I haven't even started watching it. Can I get it on Netflix?
Yes, it's on. It's on Xbox Video. It's on. Older seasons are on Hulu and Netflix.
Okay.
I think the latest season is only on Hulu and Xbox and Apple TV. But Craig, have you seen the most recent episode?
No, I admit that's the only one I haven't seen.
So in the most recent episode, so in season 1, Rune Wars appeared on Orphan Black.
Yes. Yep.
No way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like in the background there. They were playing it in the background, but then during the episode, they started discussing it, and she came up and she actually started correcting them on the rules. And the rules she was correcting were actually in the game and correct. They weren't just made up.
Right. Gotcha. It wasn't just dialogue.
So you'll like this. So in the latest episode, they're playing Agricola.
Yeah.
And they aren't just playing it on the side like it's a major plot point. There's just this character that's been badly injured and she's recovering. And as she's recovering, they decide to play Agricola with her. And he says, she's like asking what it is. He goes, well, we're going to pretend we're medieval farmers. And she's like, really? And they're like, really? Yes, that's what we're going to do. Medieval farmers. And they're playing it and they're going on. And he's like explaining the rules and like the whole, it's actually a major plot device for like getting into the deeper part of this character. It was really fascinating to see Agricola used in this way. And I loved how they poked fun at it. So I just had to bring it up because I know you like Agricola so much.
Well, yeah, the opening theme is, we're going to play medieval farmers. I mean, that's a joke
Yes.
in and of itself right
Right.
there. Ironically, it segues into my second question, but before we go there, I thought you were going to say of that prediction I made, 4 years ago, where I'm like, gaming is going to start to become major mainstream. We're going to hear it on NPR. We're going to hear Tom Brokaw talking about it, like that kind of stuff. I mean, Orphan Black's still a pretty out there show.
I think you're still right about that, though, when you go to Barnes & Noble now and you see like Imperial Assault on the shelves.
Yeah. Okay. Craig.
Yes.
And I know that there's no hate on the show. However, why do you hate Euro games so much?
I don't hate Euro
He's
games.
an instigator, Craig. Instigator.
Yeah, I know. I don't hate Euro games.
You
at
do
all.
hate them.
No, I don't. I don't enjoy them.
You do hate them.
I don't enjoy
See?
them. No, I don't enjoy them because I don't enjoy frustration and I don't invite frustration into my free time.
Into my
and
house.
to me, I find Euro games frustrating. They're designed so that you can't do everything you want to do, which is every game. But I mean, that's life also. But the key is that it's designed so that you have to build a strategy around doing enough of the stuff you want to do that you can try to get through that you're like, and it's not, I mean, that's it really. It's the frustration factor. I also like more interactive games.
Mr. Moderator, if I could follow up, could I have a follow-up question?
Please.
I'm not done. Wait, I want to do stuff though. I don't have to come up with any content. And then you're just going to dominate Rafe's roundtable?
No, I'm trying to ask.
I mean, not only that, you didn't even finish your first question before you dived in and asked him a question of your own.
Finished it.
This is not Russ's roundtable.
It's called deflection.
Okay?
But
it's called deflection. I'm well aware of what it's called. I'm just calling you on it and asking for a little more time, Mr. Chairman, for myself to answer my own question.
All right, Russ, let him finish why he
For the
hates
love of all that is holy on God's green earth.
Fine.
and life. I heard that he hates life in there too, but
I hate life. Is that what I do?
well,
No. If anything, hate would only come out when like that's the only game in town, like on a night where I really want to play with my friends. This is going to be great, and then everybody's playing Agricola or something similar. Then it's going to come across as hate, but it's not hate. It's just frustration again in real life this time because of the gaming situation. But I don't care enough to hate them. To me, like I have to have like some severe passion for something to hate it. And I don't hate Euro games. I just don't enjoy them. And I get frustrated when the people I want to play games with would rather play a game like that. And I don't begrudge them. I don't want them to not play them. You know, it's just, it's frustrating to me when like there's 3 people I want to play a game with and all of them are going to play a game that I know I'm not going to enjoy. Sure. And I have played games like that in the past just so I can play with the folks I want to play with. But yeah, so I don't think I hate them. I mean, I'm a melodramatic kind of guy maybe, so maybe I come across as hating them, but I don't really hate them.
I want to say that I wasn't saying that you hate Euro gamers. I know you don't. You don't begrudge anybody who likes it. And I wasn't saying that you're a big baby and won't play with people because you do, you know. But I just wondered when you're like, see a Euro game, you're just like, Gah! And now I get it. It's that frustration mechanic.
It is.
Yes.
It's and that's built into the games, and I totally understand that other people enjoy that because it's a mental exercise, and I prefer my mental exercises as sort of 3D strategic or tactical objectives on a sandbox-ish kind of board.
That cannot then be frustrated by another player, of which you usually can't do anything about.
Right. There's a lot, and miniature games have some of that frustration, some of them built in, and I don't prefer those games. Like, I think that's a big problem with
what's
Infinity for me.
About that is, you could argue, correct me if I'm wrong, you could argue to yourself that if somebody, quote, does something to your plan, and you had the opportunity to stop that, you could at least say, oh, well, I didn't see that opening and I didn't take it. Versus,
that's how I feel. That's not the frustration I'm referring to. I'm referring to the frustration of where I have game, X number.
You're not even given that option.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. In a Euro game where I have X number of resources, I need to do Y to really get myself into what I think of as a good position. So basically a Euro game, you're balancing your resources. You know you're not going to be able to get into an ideal position unless you get really, really lucky. So you're going to try to you're going to try to strike that middle ground and get into a position where you can, either build that engine or, do whatever you're going to do so that in the late game you're going to be able to come through.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whereas for me, I don't like engine build. I totally own it. I mean, it's my brain. It's the way my brain works. I don't like dealing with allocating limited resources, and I don't like, looking for that sort of in-depth, late game combo sort of scenario, like engines and stuff like that. That's
understood. Got it. Russ, you have the floor.
Oh, well, my question was just...
really? Let me pretend I've been waiting and be all aghast that now I get the chance to talk.
I was trying to patiently wait.
Sorry. I was patiently waiting in my corner.
I'm going to enjoy some tea now. Wait.
Oh, tea, of course. Nothing less.
No, I just wanted to...
Is it Darjeeling?
It is. I just wanted to... Just want to throw it out there that I thought maybe the theme was part of the problem with Euros because most Euro themes generally aren't as inspired as Craig might like.
That's a given.
But
that's not just Euro games. I mean,
that's true. But it seems like Euros generally
have
themes.
Very many Euro games do not appeal to me in any way, shape, or form
level,
as a
right.
theme.
Like
That's an excellent point.
Now,
I take back about 25% of the sarcasm I just threw in your direction, Russ.
See? Okay.
You know what? 30.
Okay.
I'll take back 30.
That was very magnanimous of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Magnanimous. That is a quite multisyllabic word for
Do you like that one? Okay.
All right, I'm ready for question number 2.
It must be the T.
It is the T. It's excellent.
Craig.
Uh-oh, yes.
And I'm thinking of this question in the realm of being a gamer. I don't want to preface it more than that, but in the realm of being a gamer.
Okay, let me get myself into that realm.
Put
or
on
a hobbyist or hobby gaming.
Verily I am in the realm. Asketh thy question.
What
the wrong
is
side.
your favorite Christmas memory?
Blue. Wait, no, green.
What?
No, sorry. What is my favorite Christmas memory?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's incumbent upon you to make this relevant to gaming, Craig. This question.
As a gamer.
Listen, that's your rule. It's not mine. He can answer it any way he wants.
No, but you said in the realm of being a gamer. I mean, I'm on the record lately as being very frustrated with Christmas as a gamer, like in my adult life.
It could be any time, yeah.
No. I'm trying to think, but I wasn't really a gamer when I was, I wasn't really a gamer till late college. I would say, actually, I know exactly what it is. We were all playing that foolish Wizards of the Coast Star Wars spaceship game, right? The collectible.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh yeah.
And I have never in my life purchased a case of collectible anything. And I was talking to my parents, and I was like, we're playing this game and it's really cool, but there's this part of it that's really annoying, and the only way you can really guarantee you even might get the stuff you want is you buy a whole case, and that's really and they on their own went out and bought me a case of the collectible boosters. And when I opened that was awesome, because that was just like they had clearly taken what I had said and they'd run with it, and they knew I had told them that these existed, but I didn't ask for one. In fact, I had said like I would never get one on my own, and they did it, and it was awesome. And it actually folds into my least favorite memory, which is I then took that, opened all those. It was super exciting. I even played it with my cousin on Christmas, which is the only time I've ever been able to pull that off. Like, I bring games to Christmas every year, and I never managed to get a chance to play them. Yep. I actually got a chance to play the Star Wars spaceship game from ages past with my cousin, which was cool. And then almost immediately after, during Christmas vacation, I put together an awesome Imperial fleet and an awesome Rebel fleet.
Oh, yeah, I
and
remember
then
that.
sold everything else on eBay and made more than triple what my parents must have spent on the booster box, on the booster case, and then told them. And this was a mistake.
That's the mistake.
That's because my parents do not want to know that I sold my Christmas present.
Yes.
And they didn't understand how I got everything that I wanted from it. And then on top of that, got all kinds of cool money I could spend on other things. They didn't, and I tried to explain that, and that wasn't, and I understand their point of view that they gave me a gift and then I sold it. So
that's right.
As somebody who's not, exactly. If you're not a gamer, then I don't think you're going to get like how cool it was that they did that for me, and then I was able to do that. Yeah. So that's a combo. My favorite. That's a good question, Raef. That came up. Yeah.
And Russ, you're lucky. This one is mirrored. So, what is your favorite Christmas memory?
Oh, I would say, as it relates to gaming, one of the coolest gaming Christmases I ever had was the year that my brother and I got our Atari gaming console. The Atari 2600 gaming console, to be exact.
Wow.
With a bunch of cartridges that you snapped in, and you could play different games. And it was very exciting. It came with paddles, little dial wheel things. Mm-hmm. And then it also came with little Atari joysticks.
Did it come with a steering wheel? I forget.
No, we didn't have steering wheels back then. But you had basically your two choices were joysticks and the paddles. And the paddles were particularly impressive because while you could only plug two joysticks in the Atari 2600, the paddles were two per plug. So you could actually, if you had two sets of paddles, you could have four paddles. And there were actually some four-player games. And playing four-player games on your TV back then was insanely off the hook.
Craig, I can imagine young Russ rubbing his hands together, explaining it to his friend Craig if he was around, going, and you could plug in four paddles.
It was awesome, and it was particularly cool.
I don't know. That's a good question, though, but because I don't remember who did the hand rubbing first.
Oh, it might have been Joe.
They all do the hand rubbing thing now. It might have even been Joe. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't, like, they all do the hand rubbing thing. And so I don't, it's so lost in the mists of time, it might not have been Russ. So,
right.
But it might have been. And you know what? It's a cool image. And now everybody that's listening knows that Russ does this weird rubbing his hands thing as if he's being, Peter Baelish from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of,
whoa, I love it when a blend comes together.
I liken it to like starting a fire with a stick.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
Very, very fast.
Yes. Yeah. So, yes, that was my favorite gamer Christmas, I would say.
How'd your parents know to do that for you? Or I mean, Santa Claus?
Yeah, it was still Santa Claus time. We did, my brother and I used to make Christmas lists. Mm-hmm. But this was the year, that was the year everybody wanted an Atari 20.
Were you here in America, or was that when you were in Germany?
No, we were in Germany. So it was particularly cool because getting it in Germany back then was like a big, big deal.
Did you have to get a different plug?
Yeah, but we all had the adapters. But the big deal was that several of our friends also got it, so it became a big thing. So we'd go to each other's houses, we'd play, we'd all get really good high scores to compare our high scores. It was a big deal because this was back when arcades were huge, so the ability to play anything resembling a video game in your house was a pretty big deal.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Russ.
Yeah.
Many gamers love this activity.
Uh-oh.
They may even spend as much time,
family show,
chatting about it. And I wanted to ask you, you don't seem to have this, if I'm true in my assumption that a lot of gamers have this other activity that they love, this other hobby, and you don't seem to. I'd like to know, how come you don't read comics?
Oh, I don't. There's too little story for too much money.
Okay.
So, and it's not even the money anymore, though. It's like it takes me too long to get through the story. So if I am all caught up on, so I will read a graphic novel or something equivalent of an anthology of comics. I like that. What I don't like is having to wait 30 days to read what I would consider a quarter of a chapter of a book, and then wait another 30 days for another quarter of a chapter of a book, when there are really, really, really great stories out there. Granted, I love the artwork, but so yeah, I just the the super bite-sized consumption of the comic books don't really. Now, as a kid, I read them all the time, but as an adult, I'd rather have longer range story arcs than that.
So what I hear there is it's a form factor for you. It's a format thing. You're like, hey, give it to me in a novel, and I'll like
I get
that.
it. You can't draw. I mean, drawing that many images is a lot of work, and so I get why.
But then why don't you do graphic novels?
I do read some graphic novels. I've read The Watchmen and some major things, and I do read, like, I've read Secret Wars as a graphic novel, and I'll do read those from time to time.
But it doesn't seem. Not saying you won't, but it's not like you're in on those conversations when everyone's talking about Ultron and Captain America and Thor.
No, but I think that plays off what he said. I think you have to be in that culture where you're getting it weekly and you're like, I think that's where that excitement comes from, as opposed to, like, there's a cool movie coming out and we all watch the movie, and some of us may have read one or two graphic novels, so we know a little bit of the background, but you guys who get it week after week after week or every other week or whenever they come out, I think that's where that culture comes from, which is where Russ and I who both share that opinion on comic books aren't really there.
I wouldn't have pegged that. That's interesting to me that it's the monthly wait. Because, for example, someone like Matt Alex, he's not a collector. He doesn't do the month thing. He does just the trade paperback thing. But he's very into comics, I would say.
Yeah, I don't like having to wait for my stories to finish. Like, I will actively avoid. I'd rather read books that have been out for a while and the full trilogy is complete. I will actually avoid. Unless they're really, really good, or someone's like, you got to read this, I will avoid trilogies that are in the middle of being written. And I think I'm really enjoying the phenomenon now of this age of binge watching entire series, so of TV shows as well. So, like, I've gotten to the point now where I do not like watching when I'm all caught up on a series and having to wait a week between each episode. I'd rather watch the entire season, and preferably that season ends in some kind of reasonably, a story arc completes, and you're like, yeah, I can't wait for next year, but I had a nice story there,
See, that's interesting to me too, especially with today's technology, because I get it if you want to be on a current storyline, but you can get even a storyline as year old. You can get like 50 comics right there at your fingertips for 99 cents for 4 of them or something. Yeah,
sure.
Well, that's digital though.
Yeah, I could do that, but again, I don't know.
And I don't like consuming digital, like that stuff digitally for whatever reason. And my problem is that cost to value, or cost to benefit, or whatever you want to call it. And
I wouldn't keep them either. Like, I don't want all the paper line. I mean, I could go digital, I guess. But, like, what am I going to do with all those comic books, right? I would very rarely, I mean, even though the art's beautiful, I would very rarely, I guess, if I wanted really awesome Spider-Man art, because I love Spider-Man, I would rather spend $200 on a really awesome print I can hang on my wall than, a year's worth of Spider-Man comics, which is probably also, $200.
Do you think there's a time element to it, that for the limited time you have, you're like, I just don't want to spend the time doing that?
Well, that could be. Like, I listen to more books than I read for that reason. So maybe, and obviously comics do not work well in an audio medium.
I mean, that's a great point, actually. Do you sit down and read novels?
No, not anymore. I consume all the written word I quote unquote consume is audio. Yeah.
I dare I say, maybe that's it.
Well, that's probably
maybe you're just not a reader.
Yeah, that's it too.
In today's
but I'm a reader. I'm a reader.
Yeah. Well, I notice I didn't ask you, Craig.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You know more about comics. I think you're this is judgmental, a healthier comic person. You do seem to either absorb it from our conversations, or read it on Wikipedia, or read the trade paperbacks, and you're a reader. I would count you as at least a comic aficionado.
I think Ian would not agree with you.
Do you know what a pull is?
I appreciate that. A what?
Do you know what a pull is?
Yes, I know what a pull is.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. It's like I think it's tug of war.
So you are a reader. Where do you go for your weekly pull?
Yeah, I don't get a weekly pull.
See?
That sounds dirty.
I do, but actually I get it for my
Craig, if you had limitless funds, would you get a weekly pull of something?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. Would you get it digitally?
No. I I concur on almost every level with what Russ has to say about comic books, the small weekly comic or the monthly or whatever, like I said, whatever they are. And it's not worth it to me to like carry around this little piece of paper that's going to be 18 pages that I'm going to be done with in like 5 minutes.
Right.
You know, because I'm as much as I appreciate the art as I'm going through, I'm not poring over the artwork, which is not to say I'm doing it right. I'm not, you know, I mean, I know there must be people in there who are just like really appreciative of every page. I enjoy the layout, you know, and I look at the layout and the impact of the images and everything, and I enjoy them as I'm reading them. But like, I'll pick up somebody else's copy and I'll flip through it and I'll enjoy it. And I mean, friends have lent me graphic novels, and
I was just about to go
them.
there. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and I get the sense that if Ian said, "Hey, Craig, I really think you'd like this trade paperback," you'd give
I totally
20 minutes.
Would.
You know, you'd give it more than a like flip through. But Russ would probably have all intentions to want to read it, but it might just sit on his coffee table as he played Witcher. That's the sense I get.
I read all the Atomic Robo stuff he gave me too. I thought it was great.
That sounds good, isn't it?
I read it. Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's just it really comes back to the form factor. I think Craig's also right when he says like you spend the $3 or $5, whatever a comic book costs nowadays, and it's over so fast. You know, it's like okay, now what? You know,
okay.
So I guess if you got a bunch, at once,
I mean, if you think about it, it's literally like 5 minutes of a TV series, and you're done. If
you got a bunch at once, I could see the excitement of like I just got 7 new comics, but there's 7 different story arcs you're reading. So it's you know, they're not even intertwined, so like you're changing gears with each one. Now, again, I don't pick on anybody who likes comics because the art is fantastic. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, I guess it's funny as you mentioned that. I was never thought about the waiting the 30 days. I like it because it's like not getting all the booster packs all at once. There's a little bit of a surprise every 30. Oh, my comic got issued. Oh, cool. I wonder what's going on. The thing I hate about it now is my memory seems to be so faulty, so I can't even remember what happened in the last one.
I liked them as kids. My daughters love the comics. They get.
See, that's what I was wondering is with your daughters getting comics, and I was just curious that you weren't like picking up Captain America just because you're there. And I don't know. A lot of gamers like comics, and I noticed that Russ and to a lesser degree Craig are like, comics. Who needs them? Okay, moving on. This is a both of you question, so let's start with Craig. As of right now today, your favorite miniature game?
As of right now, my favorite miniature game. I'm torn. I'm going to have to say,
Armada.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You should have seen the brutal beating I took last night.
Just because you lose doesn't make it great. Right,
that's true. That's true.
So you're referring to Star Wars?
Yeah, I'm torn between Star Wars Armada and Imperial Assault, the skirmish version.
Isn't it good? Told you.
Yeah, it's good.
Why? Why is that your favorite?
Well, I don't see. There's 2 of them. It's tough.
Pick Armada.
Well, I love Star Wars, so theme is huge. I'm going to take Armada, even though Matt beat me beat me bloody. Like the worst beating I have ever received in any miniature game ever, which something tells me the sting is still not going to have faded by the time we get to achievements in gaming, so everybody's already listened to it.
But did you
blankety blank blank whooping by miniature game in the dictionary?
It would be a picture of me.
No, but
it would be a picture of me and Matt Alex standing over my bloody corpse.
Did you throw the measuring ruler at him?
I didn't. It's been a long time, and I did not throw it. I dropped it forcefore. I was a young man, tempestuous.
Mistakes were made.
Full of life.
They've been acknowledged.
Mistakes were made. Okay.
That little image there, going back into gaming lore, reminds me of the time that Russ defeats the. Well, the rules don't say I can't do that. Russ's comeback to that used to be, well, the rules don't say that I can't pick up my model and throw it across the table at you either.
I think I think he said the rules don't say I can't take up this rule book and beat you over the head with it.
Oh, I've heard the model hitting in the chest.
Yeah, I think he used both over the course.
There
of
are
the
many
year.
variants of that.
Logic
line.
There are. It's really a statement for all seasons,
right?
Really.
It's a logic train that never quits getting good.
It is the train that never ends. Anyway, so why am I enjoying Star Wars Armada theme?
Okay.
The game's very tight. I like the design. There's not a lot of room for argument. There's not a lot of room for confusion. And I love the imagery. I love the way things work in the game. And I love that there's so much depth that every time I play Matt Alex, I learn something new.
Is the cinema that's in your head? It looks
the
like
cinema is huge.
When I'm watching you play,
well,
I'm like,
sadly, in my head, the cinema in my head is awesome. And then what actually plays out on the board is that the Empire is completely inept and their ships are made out of paper mache. But other than that, yes, the cinema is all there.
All right. I want to keep us on track, and I've got a lot more questions still. So we're gonna skip to this part of the question. If that universe did not exist, because I figured you might pick Star Wars.
Star Wars, okay.
So the whole universe doesn't exist.
Okay, so
Star Wars.
Yeah, we're getting rid of all the Star Wars games. Yep. What is my favorite one right now?
Correct.
Planetfall, without a doubt.
Oh,
I'm still super excited about Planetfall.
That's up by Spartan Games.
Spartan Games. I think it's really I think Spartan Games is kind of shaking out its old system with Planetfall. So that it's still a Spartan game, clearly, but a lot of the frustration factor that we talked about earlier is not there anymore. Mm-hmm. A lot of the things that drag down playtime for the other games, which I love, so I'm not dissing those other games, but this game is a faster, bloodier, more brutal game. I love the universe. I think it's an extremely well thought out universe. I think it's amazing models. I'm super excited about all of the new releases that have just come out. And I can't wait to get that game back on the table when I honestly do think it's going to, make it cycle back through again relatively soon. So,
okay.
Agreed.
Without a doubt. And I was torn. It was a 3-way tear, really, but I haven't been able to play that one in a long time. So the Star Wars games kind of get the leg up. And I wouldn't choose Skirmish ultimately because I'm starting to think that the Empire is a little bit overbalanced, and that's from games I've played as the Empire. And last
I hear
night,
what you're saying.
Yeah, last night last night was I didn't win as soundly as Matt won against me in Armada, but it was almost all the list that was doing the beating. So
the beating, okay.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of the Planetfall. Can't wait to get it back on the table.
All right. Excellent. Russ.
Yes.
Is there any style or genre or theme of a game you hate?
Medieval farming?
Well, could be his answer.
Genre or style? Well, that's kind of three different questions. So
or theme. Well, I'm giving you a Broadway answer.
Hate? Well, I have no hate.
You do.
But
there's hate in you somewhere.
Okay, Yoda.
Genre or style or theme? Well, that I just won't play because of theme. I was looking at the theme and go, I will not play this game because the theme is bad.
You turn into Craig. You're like, I'm not playing that.
I don't know. You know what? I think the problem I have is I get intrigued by mechanics so much. Like, for example, I played Panamax at Christian's Gathering not too long ago.
Okay.
Now, Panamax is a game about doing container shipping through the Panama Canal. So
I'm already intrigued.
That is a theme that I don't think I would normally gravitate towards, but I'd heard so many cool things about the mechanics, I really wanted to try it.
Okay.
So, and I actually really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the game, and I enjoyed how the mechanics tied to the theme, and I actually felt like I was managing container shipments through the Panama Canal, so that was pretty impressive. So I think the answer to that is probably not. There are mechanics I don't like.
I was just about to ask you. So
there are certain mechanics I don't care for.
Are there some games the minute somebody explains, Randy Brown says the mechanics are like this,
yes.
Russ, you're like, no.
If the game has a lot of luck and no strategic control, I generally don't care for it unless it is a game that is just meant to be a social interaction game that you're playing quick. Like, for example, I do not like Flux. I do not like Munchkin. Those are fun social games in the right setting and the right people. But I would never, choose to play one of those games, even in that setting, because there are other games that I think have a little more strategic value that are more fun.
Okay.
So games that are pure luck, games of pure chance, I don't care for.
All right. I heard this on the radio, and I thought this was a great, wedding or some function where we gamers are kind of bored, but we can't talk gaming because we're not in that crowd.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So this is for both of you. Craig, we'll start with you. We'll rotate. If you had to choose between the following two superpowers, would you choose invisibility or flying?
Flying.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, flying. Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Because first of all, invisibility to me seems like if you're gonna built into the invisibility superpower is you're either going to be fighting supervillains, which don't really exist, or you're going to be doing something that you don't want other people to see you doing. And I try to live my life in a way, like it really bothers me when people are secretive, and I try not to be. I mean, there's times when you are, just to be socially, polite and things like that. But
Russ, we shouldn't tell Craig about that secret D6G vote we just took.
That's right.
Exactly. See? Yeah. So invisibility wouldn't really, I mean, if you think like, what are you going to do with invisibility that's not kind of gross?
Well,
I mean, really, like you're going to be spying on people. You're going to be sneaking.
Kind of gross.
You're going to be sneaking around. You're going to be doing things you don't want people to see you doing. By definition, and flying is awesome.
That's interesting. You should say that because the person who posed that question, they kind of did a study.
Yeah.
And a majority of people picked invisibility. So, like, if they walked up to people on the street, they said invisibility. And what was
and I mean, that's a very. I would love
9 out of 10. Why did they say they wanted invisibility? Just regular Joe Jane down the street. What did they want to do?
What?
Walk into a store and get whatever they wanted.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
See,
so I have a theory, Russ. Before, so you pick your answer because I have a theory.
I would go with flight because here's the thing: I like to travel, and airfare is too damn expensive.
There you go.
So, plus, I like to climb to the top of mountains for the view, so I can only imagine what the view would be like flying.
Yeah.
And to Craig's point, it just gets you around. It seems like a cooler power. Like invisibility would get so old so fast, but I could go like to Alaska for the weekend and then fly home.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome. Well, I guess I'm taking super speed also with that, but still,
Good point.
Trust Russ to change the game.
But even if I couldn't have super speed, even if I only flew at the speed I could walk, which is 2.5 miles an hour, I could still go get places as the crow flies. Run over to the grocery store real quick. It would take 2 seconds because I got to go straight there. It's a quarter mile away, but by car it's like a mile and a half. So it's like that kind of thing. Plus, think how environmentally friendly I'd be. I'm saving the planet.
Mm-hmm. So that's what's interesting too is this is an untested theory, but when I heard that, so people picked invisibility, and the second thing that the interviewer or person who did this little study said that people did was very few people chose their powers for good. Like they didn't say,
really?
well, I would stop muggings or I would help the police and I have a theory that if we were at gamers and you asked them, even if they picked invisibility, they probably would pick something heroic with it or just help people or be like a superhero.
Anybody who's, familiar or conversant with the superhero genre is going to have a different answer than somebody who's, peripherally aware of it at best through movies.
I just think all gamers are good in heroes, but
that could be too.
Right. Except for the ones that play.
Except for that guy I met at that team tournament for War Machine.
Except for the lawful evil people.
That's right. The lawfully evil gamers.
Right.
All right, I've got a couple of quick rapid fire questions and then one heady question.
Ooh,
all right, Russ.
Yes.
Multiple choice.
Okay.
Favorite series out of these choices.
All right.
Star Trek, Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Voyager, or Star Trek Enterprise.
It's not a debate. The original series.
Oh, interesting. I didn't think you were going to pick that.
Yeah, because I did like Next Gen, but the original series was my first love. I was a kid. It got me into sci-fi. It predated Star Wars for me, so it's got special nostalgia for me as well. I mean, I recognize that the sets were awful. The budget was way low, but you think of what they did with the writing with that show. That was
but the acting was top notch.
Well, it was adequate. It was really the writing, and it was really the idea of it and what it was doing.
The idea of it, right?
Yeah.
You just recalled the memory for me. I didn't have this memory.
Not to plug a sponsor, but did you look at the email about the whole cool next year's Star Trek trip on Geek Nation Tours?
I know, right?
Where Gene Roddenberry's son is going to be eating dinner with the touring people and talking about his father's legacy.
I know, right?
I thought that was pretty amazing.
That's pretty awesome.
Anyway, continue.
My brother and I, when the original Star Trek series would come on and they would show the Enterprise kind of racing across the screen, he and I used to run at like as fast as we could, and we would like jump onto the couch and like hit the back, and the back of the couch would just slightly rock back. We weren't trying to knock it over. We just were I don't know, using it to stop, and then we would race back across the living room. And my mom would be like, "Stop it! What are you two doing?" We're like, "Mom, Star Trek's on."
I think the other thing too that's interesting about Star Trek, and now it's like a cliche, but back then a lot of future shows were dystopian futures. So Star Trek was one of the few series that actually positioned humanity as figuring all its problems out and having a very positive future.
I never realized that.
And a positive impact on the galaxy. And so now it's like, we're not going to be like Star Trek and all like goody two-shoes. But back then it was like everything was dark. There was going to be all this gloom and doom. And it was sort of like, no, we're going to figure this stuff out. And it was sort of a really positive thing. And it was very aspirational and inspirational too, which I thought was cool.
Okay. Craig.
Yes.
Which one?
That question? I did not watch the original when it was the original series when it was coming out. And so the first series that I enjoyed as it was coming out was The Next Generation. So that would be hands down mine. That caught me right in college where I had the free time.
Yep.
And the social network of watching it with a bunch of friends in the dorm room or in the common room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then none of the other series really aligned with a time in my life where I could do that. Like I was so busy after that between graduate school and everything else that I was doing that I didn't have that freedom after The Next Generation. And so to me, the original series doesn't live up because I have no nostalgia to pump it up. In fact, the few times I watched it when I was a kid, when it was originally coming out or in its first, syndication, was how bad the special effects were. And it wasn't standing up to other cool shows that I thought were more interesting, like Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that.
Oh, by the way, can you guys guess which one's mine?
I will say Deep Space Nine.
Ooh, so close, but yet so far. Voyager.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep. Love Voyager. As a matter of fact, this whole series is on Netflix, and I'm already up to episode 9 already.
Wow.
And what's super cool is, although I didn't get to interview him, of course, friend of the show, Garrett Wong, I'm like, oh my God, like Craig was talking to him, on the screen. I just thought that was awesome.
So here's the problem with Voyager that caused my brother and I to
there is no problems, but go ahead.
I will explain it to you. So I love the idea of Janeway. I think she's an awesome character.
Yep.
They screwed Janeway up midway through the first season.
Yeah, yes, they did. I know exactly what you're going to say.
There's an alien race that screwed with her crew. I forget the name of it was it the Phage? I can't remember. There's an alien race that screws with her crew. She says, if I ever see you again, get out of my system. If I ever see you again, I will just shoot first and ask questions later. I'll blow you out of the sky.
Yep.
They see them later in the same season, and she's like, "Oh, hi, how you doing? Everything's cool. What's up, man?" Right. It's like, really?
Well, and that's not even all it, Russ. When she threatens them, that's like a huge stand out of your chair and cheer moment.
Yes.
And then they completely undercut it later.
Yeah.
In the
See, and I blame the writers. But
I watched the one with the phage, but I understood that to be if my crewman dies because of you.
Didn't work for me.
That's not.
Which Neelix didn't die.
Killed her character for me. Killed her character right there. She had no spine.
It didn't kill it for me. I still enjoyed her and found her intriguing, and an excellent actress.
Oh, she's a fine actress. It's the writers that killed the show.
No. I agree. I'm just saying it didn't undermine the character for me. It weakened her to the point where she wasn't what she could have been.
Right.
I like all of it. I like the first female Starship captain on TV show. That was awesome. And I thought she did a really great job. I mean, that's never been done before, so she had to create that. And then the male counter lead with the Indian Chakotay, that was cool. And then the very strong female engineer. So I thought it was like, go girls, go girl power. I thought it was cool. Oh, and I like Tom Paris, how he wasn't exactly, clean cut Starfleet.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm enjoying that. Go Garrett. Okay, let's do another quickie and then a longie. Okay, Russ, either now or as a kid, favorite toy?
Ooh, either now or as a kid.
Xbox doesn't count.
No, I would say as a kid, the most played with toy I ever had, and I would Lego. And now I would extend it to
the boring old it's just freaking bricks.
I would extend it to now to be Mindstorm, but I'll tell you why, because Lego reinvented itself 3 times in my lifetime, right? So
that's a fascinating story in and of itself.
When I was a kid, when I was a really young kid, and this is going to really date myself, there was no concept of a Lego figure. Okay, the only way you could build a something to play with in Lego was to build it completely yourself. And I actually had the Lunar Lander Lego kit, which was you built a lunar lander, again dating myself, that landed on the moon, and the astronauts with this kit you built out of 4Z Legos. Remember the little 4 squares? You put them out, you stack them up, but that was like this whole body, this vertical thing.
Oh my God. It's like 8-bit basically.
So imagine imagine a bunch you look like a Minecraft character when you think about it. You set them up. So that's what it was. And that was cool because you could build buildings and houses, and we used to build like forts and all kinds of stuff. And I've used Lego like a bajillion different ways, right, for bajillion different things. And then when they came out with the minifigures, which again happened in my lifetime, but I was like a tween to teenager, that rebuilt the whole thing. And my brother and I had the original. So when the Lego movie came out and they had Space Guy, remember Space Guy? I had the entire line of space Lego stuff, the big spaceships, but we never built the spaceships. Like my brother and I would build these huge, out of our imagination, these huge spaceships with multiple seats and ejectable fighter craft and the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And then now that I have kids, we've been playing around with Lego Mindstorm, and just Lego never gets old. There's always just something cool with it, something cool about it. It's just this most
cool documentary on that, by the way, how they figured out to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, it's a fantastic product. It's a great toy, and it's a toy that is almost timeless. So I think Lego would be, if I was trapped on an island with only one toy, I would go with Lego.
All right, cool. Craig.
Same question? Oh,
nope.
okay.
Nope. You can answer it if you wish, however. Well, so
I would have said Legos.
All right, so we're getting close on the. I want to watch the time, and I've got one question that I really want to hear the answer to, and one that I know our listeners want to know because I want to know. By the way, my favorite toys were Adventure People. Do you guys ever remember those?
Oh yes, I had those guys.
Yeah.
They were cool.
Those are my favorite. Or if not that, then Star Wars action figures.
Yeah, I almost went Star Wars action figures.
That was close.
But everything I could do with those, I could do with Lego as well once the minifigs came out. So
I used them both together.
And nowadays they have Star Wars Lego, which solves the whole problem.
It solves the whole problem, exactly. I'm having a fun time. Notice I'm saying I'm having a fun time building the Star Wars micro fighters with Emmy.
Oh yeah, those are cool too. Yeah,
my own collection.
Have you gotten the Star Wars advent calendars from Lego? Those are fun. They're kind of pricey.
Oh, I keep wanting to, and then I wimp out and don't do it.
They're kind of pricey, but they are cool. It's cool to open up each day and assemble a small thing.
Yeah. Okay, for you, Craig, because I believe I know Russ's, is favorite superhero. And wait, before you answer, Russ is Captain America.
Yes, correct. You are correct, sir.
Oh, that's tough.
Although Spidey's a close second.
What's that?
Spider-Man is a close second, but Captain America's my favorite.
I would have to say Iron Man, but it's based solely.
Interesting.
It's based solely on Robert Downey Jr.'s.
It doesn't matter. I'm asking you who your favorite super is. It's totally fine. That's legit.
It would be that's what.
Because Iron Man is BA, man.
I appreciate him. I like him.
He's also
I like
tier
his
1.
attitude.
He's a tier 1 hero.
How cool was that Hulkbuster armor?
It was damn cool.
It was damn cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys know what mine is? Because this might be a trick question.
I think it's Spider-Man.
Craig?
I thought it was Spider-Man.
Incorrect. It is Batman.
Really?
Oh, I knew that.
I did not know that.
And I'll tell you why.
I knew that.
Spider-Man is my favorite comic to collect, Russ. You are correct there.
Okay.
Because when I read Spider-Man, it's nostalgic for me of when I was a young kid in the 80s. Mm-hmm. But as far as superhero-ness goes, it's Batman because of all the reasons people buy Batman's awesome, because he's human, he's valuable, he's a detective, he's got cool gadgets, and, he can fly around with a big scary cape and stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, and he can like beat, like I'm that guy who wants justice. And so, Batman delivers.
Batman would maybe be a close second for me. It's just in my head, mainly because of movies, it doesn't have a single established portrayal. Because there's so many people. The pool's been diluted so much.
Yeah.
Especially by those 80s, 90s.
And they keep screwing with the Batmobile too. There's only one Batmobile. The fact that they keep having 20 different Batmobiles really bothers me.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and that's that's almost penalizing it for being so successful that it's been around for so long. Whereas Iron Man, at least in the movie world, has only been around for
But it's like every director feels the need to redesign the Batmobile. It's like every director doesn't feel the need to redesign Tony Stark's Iron Man costume. Why?
True.
They may change the shape of his little chest icon or whatever, but you can't keep messing with the Batmobile to the point where it doesn't even look like a Batmobile anymore.
I agree with you there.
No, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, definitely. Okay, here's my literary type of question, and Russ is going to go first, and then Craig, when you answer, You have to keep an eye on the clock because I still have one more question for Craig after this.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Emmy is into Star Wars. She's 8, and
Excellent.
she's really digging it. So we just watched Episode 3, Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. I want you to bring up this memory, okay? We're going to set the scene, all right?
Yeah.
So it's Revenge of the Sith, and we've got Anakin, who's turned into Darth Vader at this point in time, but he's not in his suit. And he's killed all the young Jedi, and they're on the Mustafar, I think it's called, in the fire, and Obi-Wan, I thought you were my brother.
That part.
No, we're not there yet.
No,
okay?
not there yet. Okay.
And Anakin force chokes Padme, and she passes out. But Obi-Wan checks on her, and she's still breathing. She's still alive. Okay.
Yeah.
You see her later in the ship. Okay. Now let's fast forward. Vader is waking up. He's in his big Vader costume. They're tilting him up. He says, "Where's Padme?" And he says, how is she, or where is he, or something like that. And the Emperor. Does anybody remember what the Emperor says?
I have no recollection of Episode 3.
Oh, Episode 3. Okay,
dead to me.
So we'll go back a little bit then.
No, Russ is toying with you.
Oh, okay.
He's pretending it doesn't exist.
I am.
So he has now recused himself from this question. Okay, continue.
I have.
So we have the medical droid says about Padme, she's dying, and we don't know why. It's as if she's lost the will to live.
Yes.
And then Vader asks, how is she? Blah, blah, blah. And then the Emperor says, it seems in your anger you killed her.
Right.
And he says, I couldn't have. She was alive. I felt it. Russ, how did Padme die, you think? And why has he recused himself? I don't get the joke.
Oh, I don't like Episode 3.
Hates the movie.
No,
Why?
I don't like Episode 3.
He denies
wait.
the movie even exists.
Let's just put a pin in that. We're now going to have to extend this 15 minutes.
I disagree with the folks who think that Phantom Menace was the worst one. Phantom Menace was great. Okay?
Listen, Russ, I'm in your camp
Episode
on that.
3.
Phantom Menace was fantastic.
Episode
The
3.
midichlorians?
Episode
Okay, wait.
3 is the problem.
Okay, wait. we're
And
not
2
gonna
to a lesser extent.
Okay, put a pin in that. Answer
right.
my question
All right.
first. How
Yeah,
do
sure.
you think Padme
Can I just
died?
say for a second how much I love the phrase "put a pin in that"? I don't know why.
I
don't
know. I
why.
find that phrase strange.
I
You
just
passed it
really
too.
enjoy that phrase.
I use it at work all the time, and people look at me like I got 3 heads. I'm like, this is a great expression. When you talk about.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm going to say, that movie, I really don't care. That movie, that one, I have
Okay,
a
but
hard
just as a
time.
Star Wars fan.
That whole plot, that whole third
There's the
one.
indictment right there.
The third
I
one.
don't care.
I just don't care about the third Star Wars film.
All right.
I cannot bring myself to care about that one. I am a huge Star Wars fan, but number 3
Why don't we
and
save,
number 2.
Why don't we save our time, Rafe, and you could just tell us your theory?
Yes.
Well, I want to hear what Craig has to say.
I don't have I've never spent. I don't hate it like Russ does.
You have but it's not worth your time either.
All
Because
right.
it's episode 3.
I just assumed that he choked her, and that over the long haul, because her true love tried to kill her, she lost the will to live and faded away.
Okay.
That's my theory.
I've always wondered about it, but I just thought I was doing a Rafe thing where I'm like, Psst, Dave, can you explain to me what I missed in the movie that explains how Padme died? So I Googled it, and there's no real formed answer, which is sort of cool. So I get to form my own theory. So it's not fully formed, my theory, but I don't believe Vader does. I have 2 theories. I don't believe Vader does kill her. So I at first thought he force choked her, and then she sort of, I don't know, had bad oxygen, and she died like hours later. But when I'm beginning to think what happened is that the Emperor has the power to bring back people from the dead. And he also somehow is able to know what's up with Padme. And he's also from miles and planets away. And he's also able to know what's up with Vader, because he's like, Vader's in trouble. I got to fly out there. So somehow he's connected to Vader that way too, which we know that from the Force you can do that. But
how do we know he can bring people back from the dead?
Because
I'm going to give you the top 2 answers to this question. I just Googled it, and these are the top 2 answers. What did she die of on this forum?
No, I want to give my Rafe theory.
I know, but your Rafe theory is going to take it seriously. And the top answer of what she died from, she was allergic to bad writing.
Exactly. The top
And
answer is it's episode 3. Who
answer,
cares?
The incredibly deadly disease, because the smegging plot says so.
Right. Episode 3.
I
No
think you
one
guys are
cares.
missing
Rafe.
something.
No one cares about episode 3.
And then apparently it's a very common trope, death by despair.
It is.
No. There's way more going on. George Lucas is genius.
And then somebody else said spoiler in the title.
No.
And then somebody said everybody dies eventually.
Now I'm getting mad. Okay,
I'm with Greg on this.
I give up.
Greg, keep reading.
No, I'm sorry. It was funny. That's all there was. That's all there was. I want to know what your theory is.
Yes.
I'm going to save it, and people can.
No, you got to tell us now.
Don't put a pin in that. Damn it.
Damn it. Take the pin out. Take the pin out. Pull the pin out, Craig.
Okay. I think. Click. So he has the ability to Sidious, Lord Sidious, or.
And what are you basing this? That he has the ability
Where's
to bring
the resurrection light
thing? He talks
thing?
about it with Anakin. That's how he gets.
Lies.
That's how.
Lie.
No, he's able to know that from his former master. Uses that to ploy and get Anakin to start thinking about. I want to know that power. It could be a lie, but I didn't take it as a lie. I took it as literal.
Okay.
And so Darth Vader is burned. Or Anakin's burned on 3/4 of his body. That's death. I don't care in what sentence you're in. I think he basically siphons the life force from Padme and puts it in Darth Vader.
Emperor
That's what
does?
I think happens.
The Emperor does.
I don't think there's anything in the movies that supports that theory, but I
totally agree. There's not.
It's a cool, fun Rafe place for your head to go.
There's not.
Right.
I'm sitting there watching it going, interesting. We're getting these juxtaposed scenes, right? The birth and then Darth Vader's birth. There's some, that's the theme, right? And then, she dies and Darth Vader's born. And the Emperor says you killed her, but he's like, wait a minute, she was alive when I last left her. That's it. I was like, what did I miss? How did that happen?
I think okay. I thought the Emperor was lying to try to sever his last tie to anybody but him.
Right.
And I thought that she died because the man she loved tried to kill her, even though her last words are, there's still good in him. I know it. So, but she doesn't have the will to live anymore. I think it's weak writing. That's what I think it's. I think it's lazy writing. But that's just me.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's a cool little dichotomy there, and I think there could have been something like you're describing. I don't think they did it. There could have been a cool, she died because she wasn't alive because they were both orphans in episode 4.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't think it was that blunt to me.
Well, I mean, I think she had to die because they were both orphans in episode 4.
But Lucas already had the first 3 stories in his head. He just started with
in his head. But I have so little faith in anybody who says they had the stories in their head now because I've been dealing with that for 3 years. So having the stories in your head, I think it's all well and good to say that, but they don't. Even if you think they stay the same, they don't.
So how do you think the Emperor even knows? How the heck does he know what's going on with Padme?
Because he has spies everywhere.
Ah, okay.
That would be my theory.
Probe droids. 2 words.
Probe droids.
Right.
All right. This is a great question to wrap it up on, and we'll have the why episode 3 is still great, even though I'm a Phantom Menace fan.
So it sounds like a whole lost chapter.
Wow. Craig.
It should be lost chapter, Craig. Right.
It should be a lost chapter. Screw our current comment. Let's do that.
Okay.
Okay. Wow.
There's
not a lot of love for the upcoming lost chapter plan that we have for later this evening.
That's that secret vote we talked about, Craig.
That idea wasn't mine. So you guys do whatever you want.
All right.
I'm having a grand old time.
Craig, I love this question. Okay. I want you to kick back. You got to relax a little bit. All right. Okay. We're going to delve just a little bit into your personal life. Don't get scared.
Okay.
Scared.
Better you than me, Craig. Go.
I just tensed up.
The school bell rings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're in your car. All thoughts about work are gone. You don't have any play rehearsals. You don't have to go back for teacher conferences. You are done with work.
Yeah.
It's a weekday and it's not a Tuesday.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Describe the life and the day of what Craig does the minute he's in his car and he's not worried about work until he goes to bed. You can skip the family part. I'm talking about like gaming and hobbying and.
I'll be completely honest with you. The bell rings and I don't go home. I can't go home. I immediately start writing.
See, this is what I want to get into. Okay, go ahead.
In order to make my deadlines, especially when it's been extremely difficult, like it's been with my current project, I write until 5:30 or 6. And then I get in my car and I listen to a book on tape and kind of decompress on my way home.
What are you listening to right now?
And right now I'm listening to Game of Thrones, Storm of Swords.
Okay.
Still enjoying it. I mean, the Storm of Swords book is ridiculous because it's got so much more action than all the other ones combined. That's where all the big battles, all the big deaths, everything happens in that one book. So I'm really enjoying that. Then I get home. I make sure that I'm not doing anything that's not family related. While I go home, I play with my son. I make sure that I focus with him, whatever he wants to do. I make sure Karen understands that, like, you know, I'm there if she needs me to, like,
right.
You know,
You're there.
Do whatever she needs. And then, this is a night that she's not working because she works 2 nights a week, which means that then I rush home and I do other stuff. Then my son goes to, I'll have dinner. My son goes to bed. And then, assuming
what kind of dinner do you have typically?
Well, Karen is a very good cook.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't have a lot of time usually. So lately she's been doing this thing where we get all of the ingredients for 3 gourmet meals a week, mailed to us.
Oh, I'm jealous of that.
Yeah, and those have been really, really good. So she whips up, this week she whipped up, chicken tacos that were actually more like burritos or fajitas.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a mango onion salsa that went with it. I mean, it was homemade guacamole.
Oh man, that sounds good.
Yeah, so she's really been enjoying that opportunity.
I don't know why I was ever nervous about this segment. I don't understand.
What's that?
I don't know why I was ever nervous about this.
Nah, I know. Anyway, so
and yet we all know what'll happen. We'll just get rave emails. Go ahead.
Well, the thing
and
is,
I have the recipe for the guacamole.
This is my problem though. Is none of that schedule allows me to just hang out on the computer and Twitter or do whatever like that. It doesn't allow me to just hang out on the computer and look around stuff. It doesn't really allow me to go through like my Star Wars Armada cards. Like other people seem to have all the time in the world to do that. When my son goes to bed, my wife and I will usually watch something. He goes to bed around, between 7 and 8.
Okay.
And then we will watch something on TV that we both enjoy, or more likely, the more I feel the vibe that I'm going to be able to paint without her feeling like I'm isolating her, the more I'm willing to let her watch something that's more on her kind of spectrum. And so then I will paint, most likely. And I will paint, I have 2 travel trays. I have the old GW one. And then I have one that Dave made for me with his laser cutter as a model for when he was, planning on making those. And that's a much smaller one. So just one little project at a time on that one is cool. And I can take up the whole, dining room or the whole, coffee table with all my different paints and my different
materials. Do you have to set them up, or are they kind of where you can instantly?
Yeah, no. Well, Karen, that's been a sort of a wrestling match in our marriage, and Karen went through a phase where it had to be invisible to her, so I had to bring it all downstairs into the pub every night, which was kind of a pain in the butt. And she has sort of come to grips with the fact that if I keep it neat in one corner on one side table, she's fine with it because it's up and it's out of the way and she doesn't have to deal with it. So I just have to carry that over about 10 feet to the table. And then I paint, and my newfound painting approach that makes it so that I don't go crazy and stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning is that I set time limits rather than modeling. I set time goals rather than modeling goals.
Oh, so, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to paint till 10. And then I'll finish up whatever model I'm working on, but that's it. As opposed to what I used to do, because I learned the hard way that I suck at figuring out how long it's going to take me to paint something. And in my head, I'll be like, okay, I'm just going to do these 10 guys. And then I'm up till 3 because it's taken me way longer. So it takes me longer to get projects done now, but I'm much healthier for it. And it works well because Karen actually enjoys it half the time when she knows I'm enjoying myself in painting and we're watching stuff that we both enjoy.
And what time do you hit the hay?
10 or 11.
And are you able to go sack out and right to sleep, or and have to read for 15 minutes or so?
No, a remnant of my military school time, I can go to sleep almost at a moment's notice.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's it. That's all I have Cool. I actually have one more question, but I can save it for the next roundtable.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Raef.
That was a
great.
long roundtable, Raef.
Yeah, that's what we do.
All right.
That is. That was fun. I had fun.
All right. Thanks, Raef.
Yeah, that was fun. Maybe I'll throw out some of my answers to some of the other ones in the Hollywood Minute.
Cool.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. And this week's shout out is to wonderful supporters over at Patreon. Head to patreon.com/the D6 Generation. And you too can support the show, and we are oh so very grateful when you do. Thank you very much. This week I'm going to talk about a game that I get to play. Excuse me. A game that I get to play that somebody had sent to me after reading about how we play lots of games with the girls. And he sent us something that he thought would be kind of a fun family game. And it's called Heebie-Jeebies. And I mean, the name right there tells you it's kind of fun and kind of cute. We wanted to play it, and the girls took one look at the box, and they decided they really wanted to play it. And the idea behind it, it was originally a Kickstarter. So it was kickstarted, and wait, I got to reach down for the lid. It was kickstarted a while back, and I can't find the name of the company. That's terrible. It's not on the box. I'm not seeing it. I'm sure it's here, and I can't find it. But if you look up Heebie-Jeebies, like if you Google it, you'll find it. It's a great little game. Well, the idea behind it is it comes with the 250 playing cards. They're called Heebie-Jeebie cards. And there's even 10 blank ones, so you can sort of make your own up. And then what happens is you deal out these cards on a little tiny game board that has a spot for 4 cards. And they're all things that would tend to give one the heebie-jeebies. And what happens is all the other players, when I deal out my 4 cards, the rest of the players have to guess which of those 4 cards is the most likely to give me the most heebie-jeebiest of feelings. And it's kind of fun because it's not even so much about figuring out the cards and winning the game as everyone's sort of collective groans of ugh as they read these things. They're all pretty politically correct and safe. There's nothing, that's not PG. It's all great for the kiddos. They say that it's rated for older kids, but it's more because you have these little tokens that you collect. Want to see? Tokens that you collect so that you can keep track of who gets 10 correct answers first. And there are small parts, so little kiddos can't be playing with those. But smaller kids can still easily handle the game itself. And I grabbed a couple of random cards when I opened the box to play with the tokens. And one of the heebie-jeebies is something touching your eyeball. If it's not your eyelid, it shouldn't be there. Another one is, let's see, infected toenails. The toe swells to twice the normal size. Pus discharges out of the infected area. And then last one, and some of them are not gross, they're more fun. Disco, the only music that has ever made the world want to forget an entire decade. So there's 250 of these cards, so you never know what you're going to get. And as we were playing with the girls, they love this. They were laughing at our reactions as we flipped over the cards. We were laughing at their reactions. It's the kind of game you can play with anybody. You don't need to know anybody, really. You're just going to guess at which one you think would gross somebody out the most. If you do know the people, it gets a little more fun because you'll look at those 4 cards and you'll think, oh, I swear it's this one because I know she hates this. And then they go and pick a different one. And then you sit there arguing about, that's not true. You would not say that one. You would say this one. So it's really fun. It's a quick game. It takes maybe half an hour to play. And you can find it like your local game store. You can find it online. And it's a small company. I wish I could remember the name. I apologize for not having the name of the company right there in front of me. But the important thing is the name of the game, and it's called Heebie-Jeebies. And you can even create your own cards, and you can log into the website. It says you can print cards. Go to yourheebiejeebies.com, and you can print out more cards. Great kind of game to take to a party. In fact, I was disappointed we went camping this weekend, and we didn't have a chance to break it out. And it would have been great because it poured rain, and we almost drowned. It was so rainy. But the great game to play with either friends or just a party game. It can be anywhere up to 10 players, so you can have a good number of people playing this game. And the rules are so quick and easy to learn. It takes no time to learn them all. And like I said, younger kids can play it too. But you can still be a young kid. You you can be like a 5 or 6 year old and play this game, and you can be an adult, and you're going to have just as much fun because there's nothing complex. This is a fun little party game. So if you're looking for a fun party game, especially to keep the kids busy when those inevitable, horrible, rainy, very bad days show up in the summer and they have nothing to do all day, and they're going, Mom, Dad, I'm bored, then take a look at Heebie-Jeebies and have a little bit of fun.
Hey, that sound means it's time for Vic the Viking and our friends at The War Store.
The War Store, bringing the war to your door for a decade and more.
1999.
Since 1999. It's got to be almost 2 decades.
Yeah, 16
that doesn't rhyme with
years
anything.
of war to your door, folks. That is awesome. And through all that time, they have had not just an amazing selection of miniatures and miniature gaming supplies, and now it's expanded into board games and RPGs, you name it, but also they have fantastic service and the best prices on the net. I do not know how they can make that complete package. It is amazing. But, you know, I like to follow them on Twitter at the War Store because they're always tweeting out the new hotness when it's been released. These new models are available for pre-order. Those new models have just been shipped, and you just can keep up to speed on all your favorite miniature war games. These guys just know the market, know the miniature war games, know especially a lot of the tie-in board games like from Cool Mini and stuff. They got all that too. You name it, they've got it, Craig.
You bet. And they've got all kinds of cool deals going constantly. And right now, they've got their summer special deal. Mm-hmm. You go over there, look at their summer special deal. It's some crazy, crazy deals, I'll tell you.
It looks to be a special in the summer.
It is a special, and you know it's summer.
That's right. That's right. So check it out. You know, again, my favorite thing about the War Store, also beyond the selection, is the simple way to navigate the left-hand side there. You can find any miniature game you want by all the great categories, whether it's sci-fi, whether it's fantasy, whether it's steampunk, historical, whether you want terrain, whether you want painting supplies, modeling supplies, you name it.
I'm there at least several times every week.
Oh, yeah.
Almost once a day, looking
dangerous.
at the cool stuff.
It's dangerous because there's always something. It's like going to Home Depot. You always come back with 3 things more than you have to buy. But it doesn't hurt because it's affordable. So check it out. Awesome. Head on over to thewarstore.com.
I'm Raef, Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute.
Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Hollywood Minute. I'm Raef, Hollywood Granger. The best place to find me is on Twitter, the D6G Hollywood on Twitter. That's where I put most of my thoughts these days. Well, I was on the show, so there's really not that much to really wax on poetically about here. Let's see, I'll give you some updates since we last recorded. First of all, it's very fun. I always enjoy coming on the show. Once a quarter is perfect for me. Love doing Raef's Roundtable. Doing the discussion for the Lost Chapters was fun too, talking about Star Wars. In between, since you've last heard the segments here, Will was getting rid of a whole bunch of D&D miniatures, and so I had an opportunity to root through his bins and gather a D&D miniature collection for the purposes of GMing. So that was fun to do. I was able to get in a game of Agricola with my daughter, my youngest daughter, and that was fun because, you know, Agricola really is pretty much just a solo game. So I was playing a game and she was playing her game, and the way we made it a little easier for her is we didn't count any negative spaces. So she had a lot of fun, like creating pastures and you know, at 8 years old, she was able to figure out the mechanics. Again, you know, the strategy behind winning, I don't think so, but she was able to just enjoy the game. I've been really digging watching Star Trek Voyager. We've completed the first season, all 13 episodes. My daughter and I like to watch that together, and we have a blast with that. And we're on to season 2. Went and saw Tomorrowland. I don't know if I talked about that already in a past Hollywood Minute. I've forgotten, but it was a pretty good movie. I liked it. George Clooney was in it, and it's kind of fun to see a big name, you know, kind of adult film star. No, that came out wrong. Big name star who does, you know, more adult themed movies, do a quote kids movie, so that was pretty cool. Haven't been doing much video gaming recently. Not playing Prison Architect. No particular reason, just been busy. And I decided to build and rebuild my breezeway into a full season porch. So I'm on the aspect of putting up the shingles on the outside, and it's taken me forever because I'm going around 2 large windows and a door, so I'm doing all these little small cuts. Really frustrated today because I installed a light on the left hand side. I have the whole thing shingled, and I had a light installed that I did, and it's kind of a cool like porch lantern-y type of light, and really upset because the very last step, one of the mounting screws was spinning, and I couldn't get it tight. And so since I couldn't get it tight, and it was like hidden behind, there's no way for me to grab it with any pliers or anything. That means that the mounting unit, the plate wasn't flush, and without being flush, that meant water was going to go through there. So I decided to risk it looking a little bit poorer, and I decided to tap in some screws, stainless steel screws. Well, I put the left one in, and it went in no problem. And then when I was putting the right one in, it hit the back of the mounting plate, and what it did was, instead of the screw drawing in, it drew the plate away from the mounting board, and it tore the left-hand screw. So now I had this big hole, and I was like, furious that happened, and I had put in some silicone behind it to try to kind of get ahead of the game and fill in these empty pockets of this silicone. And so now silicone was dripping everywhere, and I was just getting really, really irritated with how that was looking. And so it pulled away, and it basically ruined the lamp. So I had to disassemble everything and toss the lamp away and start from scratch, which I was really frustrated with because this freaking porch project is taking me forever. So, anyway, that's what's been going on. So, really, not much of anything, but then again, you hear it all on the main show. So, hey, till next time, happy gaming.
Hey, welcome back. And now it wouldn't be, we didn't get the chalk and achievements, Raef, about you playing Lord of the Rings, the video game, and your pie making.
Correct.
And I think that's because you've been getting all your Lord of the Rings fixes now from your card game.
Yeah, card gaming, yep.
Yeah, so I thought, I played Lord of the Rings, the card game from Fantasy Flight way back when it first came out in 2011. And I haven't really played it much since then. But Raef's been raving about it.
Yeah.
So Raef's like, hey, why don't you play with me, Russ, and then we can talk about it on the show. So here we are. Right. So and Craig has not played it, but he's interested to hear about it, right, Craig?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So so Raef, what got you into this card game? Just give us a quick intro, and then we'll talk about the game.
What got me into it was I saw it out in Gen Con, had a chance to play it. I do like the setting and the lore. And that being said, I'm not a huge lore aficionado. Like, if you walked up to me and talked something very specific about the lore, I'd be like, nah, I don't know. But it's fantasy, it's Lord of the Rings, it's Tolkien. I liked the game mechanics. I liked that it had a solo component to it. And for whatever reason, the game grabbed me way back in Gen Con. And I've just stuck with it. I've just... I don't get every expansion pack, but it's one of those games that I pull out and play more than other games. So, yeah.
Cool. So it's basically a one in the box. You're going to get a 1 to 2 player game.
Yeah, why don't you give them the overview? Yeah.
You can play 3 or 4 players if you have 2 sets, right? It is a co-op game, so you can play it solo or with friends, and you're all working together to solve a problem. And Craig, there's a great theme on the box. Can you give us a dramatic reading of the theme of the game here?
A dramatic reading of the theme of the game.
Yes, please.
Yes, this is the best part.
Yes.
That's long.
It is.
An ancient evil stirs in the black lands of Mordor, and the people of Middle-earth speak of a terrible doom approaching from the east. The Dark Lord Sauron is gathering his forces, and should he acquire the power he seeks, he will cast the world into eternal shadow.
Shadow.
The only hope lies in a heroic few who must work together to stem the tide of evil.
Evil.
The Lord of the Rings card game is a cooperative living card game in which 1 or 2 players, up to 4 with 2 core sets, command some of the most powerful characters and artifacts in Middle-earth.
There you go, right?
The core set includes 200... Oh, sorry. It's all highlighted. I don't know. It all looks the same to me.
So, Craig, when you open a box of Lord of the Rings cards, what does it sound like? Why is it always echoing with bats? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. Because those are easy.
So, Raef, you get inside this thing, right? You get 226 cards, so it's obviously mostly a card game. And I think, isn't the list price in this like $50? I want to say it's $50.
No, I think the core set's $39.
Oh, that's even better. And you do get some tokens, but it's basically a card game.
It's a card game.
Do you think the value's there for
absolutely, yeah. I think the value's there. You get a bunch of cards, you get a bunch of missions, the replayability, not of the core set, but of what you're buying into, of the future with all the expansions is through the roof.
And I will say this, if you place the value of your game on the thickness of the rule book, you will not be disappointed. It's quite a thick and intimidating rule book. This is a guy who likes his rule
if
books.
I can play it, it's easy.
All right. So
I don't know that I play it right, but I can play it.
And it does come with some cool tokens. I will say this, the artwork on the cards is, it's Fantasy Flight. So first of all, the component quality is right there, off the charts.
Yep.
Second of all, the artwork is fantastic. I love the art. I can look through all those cards all day. And you do have all the heroes you're going to recognize. Now, Raef, you and I are playing with the Hobbit expansion.
Yeah,
right?
We were playing exactly right. With the Hobbit, they call it the Saga expansion.
Yeah.
It's the Hobbit, and it's 2 boxes of expansion. So 6 missions.
So if you play with the core set, you're going to be playing with characters from the Lord of the Rings, the trilogy. But if you get the Hobbit expansion, you'll be playing with some of them, but also with some Hobbity stuff, and of course Bilbo. And you're going to be most of the missions you'll be fighting will be coming from the journeys of Bilbo with the dwarves.
For those listening along, Russ and I did not play only Hobbit-themed decks, which you can do. We just played with my decks from whatever sets I had and whatever expansions I had. We built a deck, and we went through the Hobbit expansion.
Well, let's talk about this.
Well,
so,
one mission.
So normally the next thing we do is talk about setup for the game. And so for this game, part of the setup is building your decks. So how do you go about when you're getting ready to play, Raef? Like what do you do?
Oh, okay. What I do is I go on the internet and I look at some resources on some tips on how to build some pretty good synergistic decks. So there's, for Magic players out there, we're used to, black or swamps for skulls, and then the water and the white deck and stuff like that. So it's along the same vein, I guess. You have a little book symbol. You have a little, looks like a candelabra symbol. You have a sword symbol, and you have a little snowflake symbol.
Right. So different characters fall into different categories of combat, lore, or magic, and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So Lord of the Rings players talk about things like, I built a leadership deck, or I built a lore tactics deck, or I built a spirit leadership deck, that kind of thing. And when you build those 2 decks, the deck that I built that Russ played with was I think you were a lore tactics deck.
Yeah.
And what that means is that, that deck has synergistic cards to those 4 spheres, if you would. Can you build a deck with all 4? Yes, but you're going to run into that problem of all deck games where you go to get your resource and you want to cast, if you would, a spirit card, and oops, all you have are tactic resources, so you can't cast it. Stuff like that.
Right.
So what you do is you have characters that are not shuffled into the deck. And those characters come from leadership, lore, spirit, or tactics. Those characters are your generators of resources. So you kind of pick your 3 characters, and then you say, okay, and then you build your other deck coming from those character spheres. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, I'm no deck master, so I did it by being like, I like this character and I like that character.
So
and the characters have little
before you know
special...
the mission, or do you know the mission and try to build your decks tailored to what you're trying to do?
Well, yeah, I mean, a good player would know the mission. Now, whether they would cycle through the mission deck, I'm not sure about that, actually. That might be a little cheating, in my opinion. So, but maybe they've done a little bit of research or read the mission objective from the from the card sleeve. So when you buy the expansion, it comes with little fluff and rules text, if you would. So maybe they just pay attention and they go, ooh, I know from the lore there's a lot of orcs, so I'm going to take this character that gets extra, power, if you would, to fighting orcs. Let's say that.
So is there a lot of setup? If you've got your decks built, how long?
There's quite a bit of setup. Yeah, there's quite a bit of setup. You're setting up the missions. So you open up your box, you're in the core set, and there's a whole bunch of mission cards, and they're labeled like 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and the mission decks walk you through what you need to set up. That was my regret with you, by the way, but we'll get to that under playing. And then you have to set up your faction deck, and these are the cards that have the big Eye of Sauron on the back of them. And they, the little handout, if you would, the little pamphlet that comes with your expansion says, okay, build your deck, not the one you're playing with, but the one that's the game. What do you call that when it's the game mechanic that you're fighting the game? You know what I'm saying, Russ?
Like AI, the bad guy deck?
Yeah, the AI, the bad guys. There you go. The bad guy deck. It has
I'm glad I could find that
factions.
detailed term for you there, bad guys.
Yeah, the bad guys. So when you have your little pamphlet, it'll say, build your bad guy deck using this orc head and this tree. And so you cycle through your box that you just bought, and you're like, oh, all the trees, flip, 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 all the orc heads, flip, 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 oh, it says I need spiderweb cards too, boop, 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 boop. There's your bad guy deck.
Nice. All right, so
it's not that
how
hard.
long does the setup take? About 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes?
No, I think it takes a little bit longer of that. Well, I guess if you have one box, it's all right there. But if you have multiple expansions, you're doing that thing where you're like, where's my orc head with the ponytail set? Oh, my God. Oh, crud. I counter-mix them with my orc heads. And then you're like sorting all your decks. But if you're super organized and you had all of your bad guy decks by their symbols properly organized, it should take you, not including your own deck building, 15 minutes to set up.
That's not too bad. All right.
Yeah.
So you're all set up. You're ready to start. So first of all, when I start a game like this, and I asked you, I think last night, how do I win? What are we trying to do? So is it different every mission? Is it a very radically different thing, or is it pretty much the same thing every time?
Yep. So this is where we're going to spend a little bit of time. So this is the way I quote, explain a game on the D6 generation for those of you guys that haven't heard me do one of these or haven't heard me do one in a while. I try to give you the flavor of the game, the fluff of the game, maybe why it's fun to play. We definitely go over the phases of the rules, but I'll allow people that are better than me. You can watch, videos on how to play. You can read blogs on how to play to explain you the exact mechanics. So you're not going to be able to listen to this podcast and know how turn for turn, card for card, know what to do. So what you're doing, in my mind, is you're creating your fellowship. So it was Russ and I against the deck. And that deck has a mechanic of how it turns cards up that you need to deal with. Right. And they have different game terms of art for the game, and maybe we'll use them, maybe we won't, because it could get confusing. But so you've got your bad guy deck, Russ has his player deck, I have my player deck, and you have your mission deck, which is also known as the quest deck. So you're looking at your quest deck, and there's a little number there, Craig. And what you need to do is you need to get these things called progress tokens, which we'll get to in a second. And it's a number. It could be 11, could be 7, could be 3. Let's say it's 3. So there's a mechanic where you take from your bad guy deck, your encounter deck, and you set up this thing called the staging area, and that's this area between Russ and I. And the mechanic is...
bad guys go?
That's where the bad guys go. Exactly.
Okay.
And that's how you win, right? So it's all about getting the progress on those quest cards, the quest deck.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know if we explained this, but Russ, might have asked, how do you win? You win by progressing through your quest deck, which is usually about 4 cards. Yep. And if you get through that, the players win. You lose if your threat dial, which we'll get to or explain further, and gets to 50, or both players have lost all of their heroes. Right? Those are the 2 ways to win.
Yeah, I lost all my heroes and got knocked out. It was rough.
Yeah, if one player's knocked out, you can keep going, and that's considered a win. Okay, so the staging area is built by the amount of players. If you have 2 players, you draw 2 cards from the encounter deck, the bad guy deck, and there's other cards that make you draw other cards sometimes for the bad guys. There's 3 types of cards that come out of the bad guy decks. Your monsters, your locations, and these things called treacheries, which are things that happen instantly in the game. And when they happen, they go in the discard pile. And that's really key.
Right.
And that's pretty much that's kind of like the mechanic of that. We haven't talked about how you go through the mechanic, but that's the mechanic of the quest deck. I don't know if you have any questions on that, Greg, or thoughts.
No, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, got it.
Yeah. So the quest deck, so let's say in this scenario, we had a treachery card that did some bad thing, goes in there, and we have a spider. Now, spider has lots of numbers on it. We're not going to go through the whole card. Again, that's what the internet's for. But one of the things is this little mark up in the corner, a little icon, and it's called threat. It has the number 2, let's say. So the way to put progress tokens on the quest deck, which are these little feet tokens, these little round discs that you get with the game, the little feet in like sand, is Russ's first player. He says, you know what, Raef, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to quest. And he takes his card, his hero card, and he taps it. His hero card has 3 stats, among other numbers. It has a willpower stat, it has a fight stat, which is 2 crossed axes, and it has a shield stat. So the willpower stat, let's say it's 3. He looks at it and he says, oh, the 3 stat beats my 2 threat stat, so theoretically I can put 1 progress token on there. Okay? Now, in this particular scenario, the staging area had some rules that set up these 2 fictional cards that I'm telling you about. Okay. When you quest, and I had forgotten to explain this a little earlier, when you quest, you actually draw in that phase, so it's not a guaranteed. So Russ says, I'm going to tap for 3 Raef. It looks like we've got 2 threat. And, I go, you know what, Russ? I'm going to tap one of my characters, and we're going to throw another willpower in there. We've got 4 willpower. Yeah. Now is when we draw the 2 cards per player. So I flip a card. Oh crap! It's a spider with a threat of 3. I pull another card. Oh, it's a spider with a threat of 1. So we have in this scenario threat of 3, threat of 1, 4. Our other one of a threat of 2, 5. Oops! Russ and I didn't produce enough willpower. Quest denied. No progress tokens. We lost by 1. We raise our threat dials by 1.
Yeah. So the I love the threat dial mechanic because this is like the eye of attracting the attention of the Eye of Sauron, right?
Yeah.
So your threat dial starts depends on your starting hero. So I think we mentioned this when you set up. You start with your player deck, but your heroes all start face up in front of you. So basically, I happen to start with Bilbo, Gimli, and then one female healer person. I can't remember. Glimmerdale. Yeah. So I got these 3 people now. They've got numbers in the corner that dictate how much threat then my threat dial starts at. Because basically, the more powerful my heroes, the more likely I am to attract the attention of Sauron, and his eye. So it's just like in the books where if you're Bilbo and some little harmless hobbit, you don't attract his attention so much. But if you're Gandalf the Grey, Sauron pretty much keeps an eye on where you are. So you're going to, and the more success you have, like completing your quests and doing other things, the more threat you generate. And also the higher that threat dial is.
So you could become a giant hero.
You could. And the higher that threat dial gets, the more likely certain monsters are also to attack you as well. So it could be very cagey where one player is trying to be the threat generating guy and causing the monsters to attack and he's okay to fight them, while the other player is playing lower threat. The monsters don't attack him and he's trying to sneak in and complete quests and other things. Right, Raef?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, cool.
Yep, exactly. So in our fictional staging area, we have a location card, and we have 3 spiders. And now what happens is the travel phase actually happens next, but we're just going to pause that for a minute. And then we're going to go to how combat works, which is basically 2 phases. So we got these 3 spiders here, and Russ has his 3 heroes, but one of them is tapped, called Exhausted, and he's got 2 left. And I've got 1 tapped and 2 left. We can decide to pull those spiders down because we look at our heroes and we say to ourselves, what's a good matchup? And we'll get into matchups. So let's assume for the minute that we don't pull any spiders down.
Okay.
Russ, why don't you explain how those spiders get pulled down or not by the threat dials?
So the spiders have a threat number that says if the threat is this number or higher, they will attack. And my threat dial, might start the game at 32, and then at the end of every turn it goes up 1, and then when I do other things, it might go up higher. So if there's a spider in the row that's like a threat 37, if my dial's 36 or less, that spider will not attack me. I'm not
stays in the staging area.
Yeah, he won't attack me. Now, I still might want to go kill him for other reasons. There are some monsters that have general effects, even if they don't attack you, like everyone takes a poison or something. So there may be a good reason to go kill that spider, even though it won't attack. Or if you just need to lower the threat so you can go on those quests, because they also generate a threat to prevent you from getting quests done. So there might be a good reason to go attack them, but if your threat is so high the spiders will attack anyway, then maybe there's a different. You can let them come, but there's a lot of good reasons to go after those guys, right?
Okay. Yep. All right. So let's say in this scenario, one spider pops down and has enough threat to attack Russ, and the other two don't have enough threat, so we don't pull them and we leave them up in the staging area.
Right.
What Russ does now is, guess what? The spider has an attack value, crossed axes, and a defense value, and a wound value on somewhere on the card. So this particular scenario, let's say it's got crossed swords of 3. It's got a 3 power. Now, this is the part that confuses a lot of players when they play, and that is assigning defenders. Most people, they get this part, right? Oh, no problem. I'm going to assign Gimli, and Gimli's going to block. And what they want to do is they want to take the spider's attack power against Gimli's shield, and then they want to reciprocate and take Gimli's attack power against the spider. Nope, that's not how this game works.
Right.
If he assigns Gimli, if Gimli, let's say, has a shield of 4, he assigns Gimli to block, he exhausts, taps Gimli, Gimli blocks, spider does 3 to 4, bounce, no wounds, everybody happy. But that's it for Gimli.
Yeah. The way I remember it is basically your shield stat only works if you're actively blocking. So it's like your character has to choose each turn. Is he raising his shield to block and screening, or is he swinging his sword?
Okay.
So you think of it that way. If you're swinging your sword, you're leaving yourself open to get wounded. If you're blocking, but you're not taking but you're hiding behind your shield or the table or whatever.
Well, you can get wounded too if your shield stat is lower than the spider's attack
but
stat.
At least you reduce the attack by your shield value, whatever that value is. And also, if nobody blocks, then that whatever damage that spider is going to do is going to be distributed across your whole party with nobody using their shields at all. So you generally want to block with somebody if you can, unless there's a really extreme reason you'd rather attack or something.
Yeah, so if you decide, so in this scenario, we've got one tapped because Russ quested, and let's say he decides not to block because he wants to attack with his 2 remaining heroes. He goes, Raef, I'm going to let it go unblocked. That spider does 3 what I call direct damage. He has to pick a hero and give it 3 wounds, irregardless of shield value.
This is where I kept messing up, is that there's also these ally cards that you can bring out later to add to your folks on the table. Allies are not really as good as heroes. I mean, they function essentially the same in terms of fighting and blocking, but they don't generate resources, which is important because each turn your heroes generate resource tokens, which let you play these cards. And secondly, they never take damage from monsters, so you must, unless they block, right? But if they don't block,
take the direct damage.
Yeah, if you don't block and the spider comes through and it just does damage to your party, you have to give that damage to heroes. The only way an ally can take damage is if he actually blocks. So you got to remember that an ally is not the same as a hero, and he's not quite as good. And if you don't block at all, your heroes will be taking that damage. So a lot of times, you're just throwing allies to block just to kind of prevent the damage from getting through to your heroes.
And you asked me how you built your deck. So in your head, you're building a lot of blockers. Yeah. You know? And you're building blockers of low resource costs, so you can get them out early. And you're building blockers with higher resource costs that have higher shield values.
And remember, and I didn't get this the first game either, you never get more heroes, right? There's no heroes in your deck besides the one you start with. And when your heroes are all dead, you are out of the game. So it's really, really critical that unless you've got some kind of good healing engine going or something, that you use your allies to block and keep your heroes as healthy as you can.
Yes. And while we're talking about blocking, you can one card only blocks the monster, one monster. You can't assign multiple blockers to a monster.
Yep.
So that's a key component of the game too. All right. So Russ blocks with Gimli. He's got 1 hero left. Yeah. He then gets to decide to attack the spider with his 1 hero left. So let's say his 1 hero has crossed axes of a 4. He attacks the spider. Let's say the spider has a shield of 1 and a wound of 1. Squish, kill spider.
Yeah.
Spider goes into the discard pile. Okay?
Yep.
There's one thing I should add during this fighting thing. We started to do it, Russ, then we stopped doing it. It's called the shadow effect. When you have your monster sitting there, you deal a card face down from the encounter deck on top of the monster. And it just sits there. Then when you're doing the defending and the fighting, when the monster fights, you flip that card, and on the bottom of a card, if it has a shadow effect, it goes off. It's like an instant spell. Yeah. They say things like, -1 to defense values, or +1 to spider, or they have some sort of bad effect that ruins your day.
If you want a little more random element to the game, like a little die roll, this interjects that, but it also increases the difficulty level quite a bit. So.
Yes. So there are rules. Like the game basic rule is every monster gets a shadow effect card dealt down. They're not always something. You could flip it, has no shadow effect. You just discard it. But you can play without shadow effects if you wish, if you're finding that you're getting beat by the encounter deck too much. Okay, combat phase, the only thing you need to know is you can gang up with multiple characters. That's good for getting high powerful monsters out of the way. And then the last phrase is refresh. Guess what? You untap, you draw a card, you handle any other kind of cleanup stuff, and you're back to the beginning of the resource phase.
Yeah, I'm not sure we mentioned this very clearly, but in the resource phase, as I mentioned before, each hero gets a resource token on them, and each hero generates different kinds of resources. So fightery types of hero generate swords, knowledgeable types of heroes or spellcasters generates books, and then these cards in your hand, in order to play them, to bring more allies out or to equip weapons on heroes, you'll attach items too. Like you might attach Sting to Bilbo or an axe to Gimli.
Yeah, you have items you can attach. You have weapons that you can attach.
Cost resource points. Some of them are 0, but most of them cost some amount of resource points of a certain type. So if it says 2 swords, you've got to have enough heroes with resource tokens on them that are sword types and spend those tokens to bring that card into play. And some of these cards are instants too. Like in the middle of combat, you can play this card to, reduce damage or increase damage or attack first or something like that. And again, all these things also cost resources. So there's a big part of the game is building those resources on your heroes and deciding. And when a hero dies, it's twofold. First, you're losing a hero. So you're losing a guy you can block with. You're losing a person who can attack. You're also losing a key element to keep you in the game. But even more important, you're losing a resource generator, which now means your cards in your hand can be less effectively played as well. So it's very painful to lose a hero.
And at every phase of the game, resource phase, the planning phase, which is when you're playing the cards from your hand, the quest phase, the travel phase we haven't done yet, the encounter phase, the combat phase, all the cards in your hands, they all can affect that. There's a card where if Russ taps, I have a card that I can say untap that card. It's called ready. There are cards that say ignore the threat in the staging area. There are cards that say this monster doesn't pull down to you, or if it does, you ignore all combat values. You know what I'm saying? So there's cards for everything.
And there's all kinds of what's really interesting about the game is there's all kinds of great cards to promote player interaction. So I might have a card that says activate this hero to heal damage on any other hero. So if Raef's got a badly wounded guy and he's doing all the fighting, I can have the spellcaster in the corner, keeping her threat low, but healing Raef like crazy and keeping him in the game, or having him draw an extra card. So there's a lot of cool co-op and interaction,
like support,
and I got to experience none of it due to the really
mission that you chose.
Awful scenario that we played last night.
Yeah, that was bad. We're going to save that for how we felt about the game.
Yeah.
So I just want to describe very briefly about the travel phase. So we're back to the staging area, and there's a location, and there's 3 spiders, and we're trying to get progress token on the quest. Okay. The travel phase is a card called location, and there's this little threat number in there. They're usually pretty high. And that's limiting us from getting to the quest. The party can decide, and we can go, all right, let's activate that location. If you do, you're, quote, traveling to it. You don't tap any cards. You don't do anything other than you take that card and you stick it on, I put it on top. You put it on top of your quest. You can't put progress tokens on your quest until you've dealt with that location. That location usually has some game effect text on there, like all spiders attack at +1 or something. And it also has progress number on it. It's usually lower, like 3. So now you're doing that whole tapping willpower to quest, to go to the location, to put progress tokens on the location. When you do that, it's resolved and you can get back to questing.
Okay.
That's it. That's pretty much the game.
Yeah.
So I guess what we'll say, Craig, is I kind of did a big blunder. I'm really upset with myself. So I reread the rules in anticipation for Russ and I's game, so we wouldn't be hung up with our nose in a rule book.
Yep.
I know the rules 90% pretty well too. I made sure that I had a deck. I made sure Russ had a deck, and I built the encounter deck, and I forgot to build the quest deck. Mm-hmm. So when I'm in the Hobbit and I'm on mission 3 on my own missions, and I read mission 3 in the book, and I'm like, mission 3 is doing some real funky stuff. It's not the game I just described to you guys. I go on the internet. Yep, 50% hate that mission. I go, forget that. I go to the book and the next mission, and for some dumb reason, I don't look it up on the internet. And I look at it, and I'm like, oh, this looks totally normal. Like, there's no special rules. But I forget to build the darn quest deck, which tells you how to do the setup. This particular mission created 2 staging areas to which one Russ as Bilbo was trapped in because in the lore the spiders trapped him.
Well, right. This is the fluff for this scenario, which is right out of the book and interesting, is this is the part where they're in Mirkwood and Bilbo wakes up and everybody's caught in spider webs, right? So you get into two groups. There's a group that is Bilbo and everybody's stuck in a spider web, so basically everybody's unconscious except for Bilbo. And then there's another group, Raef's group, which is awake, but they're all fighting spiders and trying to get to where you are. So there's basically two groups. And the problem with this mission is that
lots of fold.
There's many problems with this mission. One, you're completely hamstrung. It's obviously designed for very, very people who know what they're doing.
Yes.
I got Sting on Bilbo right off the bat. A spider attacks. I'm like, oh, clearly Sting's all about blocking and defending. I did exactly what it says to do. You flip a card over for a random value. It was 0. The spider bites Bilbo, does major damage. And there's a thing in this mission where all the spiders do poison, and every poison point reduces all your stats to 0. But the real problem I have with this mission is it turned the game into exactly the kind of game I do not like. So, as you guys know, I'm a very big into player interaction. I like screw your neighbor games. I like to talk to my friends. Even co-op games I like to play together. I like to see what you're doing. I like to help you out. I like you to help me out. This mission is specifically designed to say there is a barrier between you two. You're basically not in the same game until either one of you breaks through your mission. Nothing you can do. None of those cool cards that you heal.
It's not even
player.
the same game.
It's not even the same game.
It's not even the same game.
It turns it into two solitaire games.
Solo games.
It's two solitaire games.
Because that's exactly what I thought I was watching.
It was, and it was so
I was like, I thought you guys
dull.
could help and interact and co-op, and instead...
It was so dull. It was so boring. There was nothing you could do. I played it twice.
So normally,
sides.
normally are the enemy cards lining up against each of you like they were last night?
No.
Or they're just one group in the middle?
It's one big group.
One group in the middle.
So it's like, who do you think the spider's going to attack?
Okay, so I don't even have a good idea.
No, and I don't either.
I have no concept of how this game actually even looks.
No, and here's the thing.
Don't.
When I played it several years ago, I remember enjoying it more. And so when Raef said, let's play, I was like, well, I pretty much enjoyed it before. But I'm looking forward to trying it again. And now that Raef's played it so much, I'm sure he's got all kinds of cool insights into it, and it's got some expansions. And I think it turned out, Raef, you just happened to pick a really unique mission. Well, and I get it. You want to make some really challenging, fun, wacky things.
No, I'm so pissed at myself. So I made the classic blunder, other than getting involved in the land war of Asia, which was I didn't do my homework, and I turned a really fun cooperative game with a gamer, Russ, who's open to a lot of different gaming experiences, and turned it into a solo solitaire game, which would only have been fun for experienced Lord of the Ring players.
Right.
Yeah.
Or people who like challenges.
I think you're right. If I had played the game a bunch before, I'd be like, I want to try something unique and new. It's definitely, so clearly the Hobbit expansion brings some very unique and innovative ways to play the game.
Right.
But, I guess my recommendation is do not get the Hobbit expansion unless you've already mastered the game and you're looking for other really exotic ways to play it.
Yeah,
or you
like
play it
breaking
solo
the
a lot
rules
anyway.
kind of thing.
Right.
So, as a matter of fact, I ruined the taste of it so bad that you're probably not going to want to try to play a game in the next,
here's the thing. I liked
3 months, but
what was frustrating
if you
me
do,
about
I'd like
was,
to challenge you to a real game.
I'd like to play it because what was problem was I had this handful of all these great cards that could help you.
Yep.
And I was trying to set up, and then I realized it didn't. So, and you had cards that could help me, but they didn't.
Yep.
And so
Exactly.
it was like my deck was built wrong for the situation.
And not
It
only
was just
that, Craig, but these decks that I built, one was a fighty, blocky deck, and the other one was a willpowery deck, a questing deck. So it's supposed to be one of you's the fighty, blocky guy, and has cards that help that, and the other one's the questy, willpower healer guy. And so here we are locked in these two channels.
Now, didn't you know the mission before you made your decks? No,
I never played the mission. And so, stupidly, I did the homework. I'm like, oh, I know these Hobbit things can have weird things. So the mistake I made was I read the pamphlet for the third mission that I was on historically. And in the pamphlet, I could tell this mission would not be fun.
Yeah.
Then I went to the second pamphlet, opened it, saw no funky rules, and totally forgot to build the mission deck. I built all the other decks and forgot that the mission deck is also critical because it's only 4 cards. So I'm like, I'll just pull them out when I'm there. And I'm going through the mission deck and I'm like, oh God, this is breaking the rules of the game. But I didn't think it would be as bad as it was until we were knee deep in it. I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah, so it's fortunate. So it's, it's to the point where I don't know that I would recommend the Hobbit expansion at all unless you just want the heroes.
Hardcore players.
Well, or you just want the heroes, but you're going to play, or you're a hardcore player, or you like something really different and
I see.
unique.
You can, like any FFG expansion, you can get the Imperial Champion for skirmish and not use him, just use his cards.
Right. So I think I just don't care for those missions.
Craig.
Because I remember playing like the Road to Lothlorien or something last time. It was really interesting, and I remember because like there's no moments of because half your heroes are locked down. There was never any moments of like really awesomeness or any great visuals. It was just like, I'm fighting. Even Bilbo with Sting, like for whatever reason with luck, I couldn't have him actually kill a spider.
Not to beat a dead horse, but Craig. But here's how bad it was. He's got 4 heroes, his 3 regular heroes plus Bilbo. He starts the game in a web. All his heroes are tapped. They're exhausted. You can't put a player. They get no resources. You can't play a card effect on them. You can't make them out of a web. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this. So he's looking at his hands of cards. He's like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, not much of anything. Yeah. And then I've got this like willpower-y deck.
That's weird.
And I'm facing like 5 spiders that are going to eat my head in 4 turns. It's like
that's what I don't like. Like you were doing the trash talking about the spiders all day. So didn't you know that that's what was going to happen, or are there various different spider-like missions?
No, I never played this encounter deck before.
Okay. See, and that was what you said about the mistake, and you didn't read.
Yes. What I should have done was gotten a regular encounter deck. Paid attention to that, paid attention to the mission, and gone, okay, this is a regular experience. So, see, that's part of the fun of the game is that encounter deck I've never encountered before because that's mission 4. Gotcha. I've played mission 1. I wouldn't advance until I beat it, in other words. So I was on mission 3. Mission 3 was no good. Mission 4 was also no good, but I didn't pay attention the right way.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 6 missions.
What's cool about the game is there's tons of expansions with tons of other missions and tons of things to do. So it's very, very replayable. But they do some exotic stuff, and I definitely wouldn't recommend teaching the game on The Hobbit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we should probably sum up here, right?
I agree. Yeah, I'll go into why play and what's fun about it when I sum up.
Okay.
You would put a thing here, Russ, tips and tactics. I got no freaking idea. I am not an expert. I would go to 2 places. I would go to a blog called Tales from the Card blog. He's very prolific. Tales from the Cards. Very prolific. He gives you strategies on deck building. He reviews expansions. He tells you if they're fun or not. Kind of like I should have read that too. You know what I mean? Like what people thought of this mission. And the other place is, if those of you know Steve McLaughlin over at the WWPD, they have like 6 podcasts on the Fellowship of the Ring.
Cool. So Craig.
Sorry, I had to cough there.
Before we rate this game here, in the style of Gollum trying to convince himself to play a game, please describe the patent-pending D6G rating system.
No. I wanted to be in the style of Gandalf stopping the Balrog.
All right. That seems easier to me, but I'll give him a softball, sure.
Okay. All right. You vile fiend of a card deck-building game! You shall not pass!
Perfect.
You're dangerous! The lower the number, the better the result! I don't know. Look, the lower the number, the better the rating, okay?
All right, pretty good. All right, so let's see. Rafe, do you want to go first or last on this?
Last.
Okay. Craig, you want to go middle then?
I don't know how the everyman goes not last, but okay, I'll go middle.
You go middle. I can see the appeal of this game. I like the artwork. I think the mechanics are good. The mechanics can be a little confusing. I think it could be simplified. There are a couple things about the game I don't like. So there are keywords on the cards like ally and hero, but there are other game mechanics that require you to understand how they work from the rule book on allies and heroes. So I kind of like card games where there's a core mechanic. It applies to every single card unless there's rules on the card that say otherwise, and keywords on the cards are only used to really help you with cards that say things like, if it's keyword wolf, do this, But they don't do that. So there's these ancillary rules from the rule book you have to know. Like, for example, there'd be cards with the word like stoic, or there's a couple. There's one of the ones that guards things. I can't remember what they're called. And there's no text on the card what it does besides the words. So you got to go look in the rule book for what that effect is, or you have to go look in the rule book to understand that. And this is what got me in trouble, to understand that an ally card doesn't generate resources, for example, like a hero card does. You only know this because you have to go read in the rule book that heroes generate.
Gotcha.
Which kind of sounds obvious, but in a lot of card games, you don't need to know that. In a lot of card games, you just need to know, hey, when a card's face up on the table, this happens to it, unless it's got text that says otherwise. So, so that makes it, and the rule book is quite thick, and I think a little complex. Takes a while to learn. So I do think the game is a little complex for what it is. But that said, its complexity lets it do a lot of interesting things. So I do like the story elements to it. It does really capture the theme very well. I like the way the threat works. I like the idea that Sauron's eye is watching you. I like the idea that I can build a deck of like little, easy heroes and maybe one really powerful hero in there someplace like Gandalf. I like all that. That said, I do not like solitary games, and so I don't like when it becomes a pure co-op game. And also, I seem to remember when we played before that we started having that sort of alpha gamer thing where when there's 4 players, one person who knows how to do everything starts guiding the whole party. And I remember that happening too. So I haven't played it recently to see if they've introduced things to fix that. I mean, I guess the Hobbit version kind of does when it turns it into 2 solo games, but so that problem is still there as well. That said, it's a fantastically themed game, and I do think there's good mechanics, and I think there are some great quests in there. I just haven't experienced them myself yet. So, also, I think about this game, and I think that people who are passionate about Lord of the Rings will really like it. People who are not passionate about Lord of the Rings, I don't think it will get you to play it because of that. So I'm going to give it a I'm torn. I want to give it a 4+, saying that half the people who try this game will like it. And I think that's what you're experiencing, Raef. Roughly half the people who try it like it.
Definitely.
And I think that's about right. So you got a 50-50 shot in this game when you play it if you're going to really love it or not. The people that like it are really passionate about it. You see them on the internet. They're very excited about it. There's a lot of websites dedicated to it. It's a very great game if you like Lord of the Rings. But it's definitely, I think it's an acquired taste, and I think it's something you got to be willing to commit a lot of time to because it's also very tough. So you got to be willing to commit the time to really trying to beat it and have that kind of mentality that you don't mind the game beating you up a lot to get through it.
Yeah, so it's not for casual play.
I don't think so. So I'm going to give it a 4+.
I would not say it's for casual play.
Okay.
4+.
I just want to say this before I forget. Russ, your statistic is right. If you pick a 4+, those that like it seem to really like it, and those that are like, I don't like it, seem to pretty much not like it a lot.
Yeah. So there's no middle ground.
No.
You either like this game, you don't. After last night, I was definitely in the I don't like it at all camp.
Right.
Until you explained to me that this is a really bizarre mission and they're not normally like this. So I'd be willing to try it again. Now that the mechanics better, a regular mission with, a more normal scenario. But I'd be nervous about it. Also, one thing that frustrated me too was the first game we played was over quickly. So I don't mind a hard mission if it's over quickly, but the second game we played went on forever. And at no time, though, in the going on forever, did I felt we even had a remote chance of winning. So I felt like I was going through an exercise to lose, and there was no question the outcome was going to be a loss. And it just was like, can this get over any faster so we can try again or do something else? Like that was kind of where I was. So it definitely has those channels of doom, if you will, built in to it, which I guess is thematic. So Craig, Raef wants to go last. So what do you think?
Right. Well, I don't like card games generally. I don't like deck building games. I love Lord of the Rings. The artwork was awesome. The playmat from Inked Playmats was awesome. It looked like it added a lot and helped with the sort of like gave you some more graphic design to rest on.
Get you in the mood.
That being said, the game I watched doesn't appear to have actually been, except by passing acquaintance, the game that I thought I was watching. The game I watched, I would never want to play.
No.
So I would say watching me as a person who doesn't like card games, doesn't like deck building, watching the Hobbit expansion, Mirkwood, whatever it was that we were looking at there, I would say that was a 6+ for me. I wouldn't like, you'd have to bribe me with something outrageous to get me to play.
Right.
Now, if like under the right circumstances and you tell me like can up to 4 people play? Like, is it can it be a more sociable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think I think if I'm in a Lord of the Rings mood, you know, and I've got some like Raef and some other friends who know the game and are good at it, but then that lends itself to what you just said, Russ, where, you know, somebody runs your hand for you, so to speak. So, I mean, from what I've experienced and seen from other people, I would say a 4+ is exactly where the game rating belongs. For me, it's not going to be that high, but as a generic rating, I would say half the gamers who play that game seem to enjoy it.
Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah, I was just thinking that, Craig. If you were in the right Lord of the Rings mood,
yeah,
and here's where I've seen that one player doesn't play everybody's deck is because the players I play with don't have their decks and their opponent's decks memorized. No, memorized.
Oh, gotcha.
So it would take an incredible amount of time to look at your own hand, look at your board, look at your opponent's hand. You know, I'm not even your opponent, your friend.
Right.
So there's a little bit of like, oh, maybe you should do that in attack. Okay, yeah, no, you know what? You go for the spider, do your thing. That's the games that we tend to play are like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Andy likes the game. Dave likes the game. Greg Ivany hates the game. I think Christian hates the game. I absolutely love it. I'm not sure. It's not really the lore so much to me. I think what I like about it is it feels very co-op-y without somebody running my hand. And again, that could just be due to our inexperience, but I can run my own hand and not piss off my opponent either. I mean, my friend, you know, they're like, okay, there's obviously 6 ways to do this kind of thing in this particular scenario. The solo play is unbelievably amount of fun. I've said this before in the Hollywood Minute, when you're playing solo against the deck, it's just you versus the deck. It's somehow not just, I really wish I had my friend here to play. I'm in the game. I'm like, can I beat this deck? What am I going to do to get through this? The deck beats me. I go back to the drawing board and I'm like, okay, how do I get rid of these poisons? Oh, I've got these cards that do this, you know, oh, this hero does that. Oh yeah. Throw that hero in, go against the deck again, that kind of thing. I don't know. It just taps into my brain. I like the collecting aspect of it. I like the living card game, like what you said, Craig, of like, well, you might want the Hobbit to get the heroes, you know? And Tales from the Cards will do that. They can tell you which expansions to get, like which heroes rock kind of thing. So that's fun. It's so well supported. There are so many expansion decks that if I took this game on a desert island, I don't think I'd be done with it in a year or 2 years. So yeah, it takes a certain kind of person who likes it. There's definitely a certain amount of time to learn how to play it. And I rate games based on, if you're like me, if you like listen to the show, you're like, I like that guy Hollywood, I think like he thinks, then here's my rating. My rating for this game is a 1+ with a reroll.
Wow.
Yep. That's how much I like it.
Wow. So I guess if you're Raef, this is amazing.
Yep, it's an amazing game.
Well, I will say you play it all the time, so clearly it's there for you, and it does engender passion. So I think there's something special here for a group of folks who really like co-op and solo play and really like Lord of the Rings. So.
I mean, it catches fire with somebody.
Yeah. So, and I do want to try to get Raef. There was enough mechanics and enough like. It was fun to see Gimli on the table. It was fun to see. One of the frustrations for me in the particular scenario playing, like, Gimli's got this cool rule where every time he takes a wound, he does more damage. So he gets madder and madder. But then it just seemed like for the deck I had, there was a counter to that in the particular scenario playing, because every time you were poisoned, you lose all your stats. So nothing would work, because Gimli's supposed to get wounded to get better, but when Gimli gets wounded, he gets poisoned, and he actually gets double worse.
You were like hamstrung in so many ways.
Nothing worked, but I could see how cool it would be if like it wasn't just built to turn everything off. It was almost like, this is the mission for the most advanced player. It was like try this new video game on super hard nightmare mode and see what you think.
Yeah, that's a great
That's
example.
what it
I hate
felt
it.
like it was. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I don't even know what the controls are.
And that's another reason why I give this game a 1+. Don't ask me why, but I think it's fun to be like, beat down, go back, try this again. Well, because remember, I lose a lot in games. So beat down, go back, try this again. And that's what happened in the second game, Russ, is since I'm not so much of a Matrix, I think I predicted that we'd probably lose. But I was in other games where we've lost players and been like, there's no way we're going to pull this out.
Right.
And the way the randomness of the encounter deck flops, you actually pull it out and win.
Right.
So that's why I kind of dragged that on a little longer than needed.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Well, cool.
And you like card games too.
Yeah.
I mean, you like poker and.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
And that's why Dave Farr likes it too, and Andy too. There's randomness.
There is
like
randomness, yeah.
Russ, we could play a game and have everything keyed up, and the polls just make us go.
No, in that game we played, there were many, many different random ways I could lose. It was fantastic.
Exactly.
So Raef, well, thanks so much for coming on the show, and
always love it.
spending a little time
Always
with us and giving us. So, if someone wants to follow up on the typical Raef Hollywood antics on the internets, where should they?
All right. There's two places: the Hollywood Minute within the show, and Twitter. Those are my two most active places. Oh, and Marvel Puzzle Quest.
Marvel Puzzle Quest. All right.
So I do have the D6G Hollywood blog, the D6GHollywood.com, but it's just between Rocket Dog and Law Firm. I don't have posted anything there. So it's Twitter and Hollywood Minute.
Good. Well, thanks again,
right.
Raef, and take care. We'll see you again on the show here in a little while.
Sounds like a plan.
Take care.
Ciao. Brought to you by all of our fine friends over at Patreon. That's right, those patrons that are making it possible for us to do this ridiculously wild podcast once every 2 weeks. Thank you in particular this time around to Kirk, Jamie or Jammy, Benjamin, Ted, and Frank. And thanks to everybody who's taken the time to go over, check out our little weird video, and kick in a couple bucks here or there. Remember those lost chapters? It's the easiest and the best way to get them, and the best way all the way around for the podcast as well. So you kick in a couple bucks an episode, which is totally voluntary. You get all those lost chapters for free. Find out what happens behind the curtain. Did you ever notice how everybody's got a nemesis out there somewhere? And I mean gaming. I'm not talking about anything other than gaming. And I'm talking about that guy who's just got your number. He's going to beat you he or she, because I've seen it go both ways. They're going to beat you every time you play them. Now, I personally live in a world where I feel like I'm surrounded by nemeses. But I was thinking recently, because of some of the stuff that we talked about in Achievements in Gaming, about this whole concept. And I remember way back a long time ago when DACA, the store, was in its second location, and Russ was working on this awesome project called DACA Stats, which I think we've figured now was about 20 years ahead of its time, and would have been great because it would have launched him to micro stardom even sooner than he finally achieved it. But it was a really cool thing. It tracked all kinds of different stats. And one of the things that he was toying around with was it would track your nemesis, meaning who was the person who beat you the most often. And it was a huge surprise to me that I actually showed up as somebody's nemesis all the way back then. Because, I'm no slouch, but I'm not one of these, I'm not an alpha player. I'm not one of the guys that's, winning consistently no matter what game I'm playing. And the guy for whom I ended up as a nemesis, which is our friend Chris or Christian, he is one of those guys who's really good at everything he plays, which I think really frightened him that I was his nemesis. And it was weird because there was a period of time where months long, where no matter what we were playing, it was all 40k, but no matter what armies we were playing, I was constantly beating him, and it was always a squeaker, and it was always because of some weird little thing that happened at the end of the game, but it would happen all the time, and eventually I ended up as his nemesis, which was kind of frightening to me anyway, because then, he had kind of like a thing where he needed to knock me out of that position, which he did eventually, because, he's good at everything, and really, not. So, but it was fun to be one of those guys, even for a little while. But the main thing that I'm thinking about lately is, you've heard us say many times his name, Matt. Matt Alex is one of the nerd herders. He's a great guy. He's an awesome guy. He's fun to hang out with. He's funny. He's really good at games. He's a great guy to have on your team. He's not really like, when you see him across the table, you're kind of scared, like almost in a real life sort of way. And it's sort of terrifying. Because he's so good, whenever you play him, he's playing on a different plane than you. And I always feel that I'm playing a totally different game. And it makes me feel very inferior, because I know for a fact, I'm not being, self-deprecating here. I know for a fact that he is better than me at every game that we play. And it's funny because I will occasionally beat him, but almost always just because it's his first time playing a game, and he'll make a couple mistakes because of how he was taught the game, and then realize, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I gotta do this. Oh, okay. And then the next time, just like what happened with, Star Wars Armada, he crushes me the next time that we play. And it's almost a guarantee crushing. So I started thinking, like, I like Matt, and I like playing games with him, especially when we're on the same side. And I don't ever want to say, Matt, I can't play you anymore. My ego can't take any more of a beating. But what do you do? Because I seriously, and I know he's not doing this, but I keep thinking while I'm playing him that he's over there going, I can't believe he did that. What an idiot. And I know he's not, right? I hope he's not doing that. But that's how I feel. Like, I'm constantly second guessing myself. And now I know that, you play people who are better than you to get better. The problem is that we don't play anything consistently long enough for me to end up benefiting on that learning curve. So it's just a question of how many times I get beaten at this game before we play the next game, sort of thing. But, and a couple of Raef's questions also, and his reaction to a couple of my reactions to his questions, have me pondering, like, what do you do when there's that guy in your game group? And we have several, so I don't want to feel, single out Matt to make it seem like he's the only guy, and everybody's going in fear of him. There's an upper crust level of gamers, and those guys, when they play each other, it's just a joy to behold. It's like watching chess masters in action. And those games are just amazing to watch. But when you're playing them, it's like, it's all those old tricks that we've talked about since the beginning of the podcast, where you have to come up with little goals for yourself. Like, I want to make it to turn 3 with at least one ship with at least one hull point left, things like that. But eventually it's just like, it's just grueling to try to, to deal with that. And I will never say no to Matt. I enjoy, even when I'm losing, which is almost always, and I know that it's hard to believe this, even for Matt, who's probably listening to this at some point, that I am enjoying myself, because eventually I'm like, I'm playing a different game. I'm playing a totally different, and I'll tell that to anybody who stops by. I'm like, I'm playing Matt, and he's playing a totally different game than me. But it's just it's a question of what do you do? And I don't know. I have no answer for that. I will continue to play Matt, and I'll continue to play Matt, hoping that we stick with a game long enough that I can benefit from his burned hand teaches best tutelage, and apply that knowledge in the future. I also try to, okay, in any kind of game of this type, he's doing, but it's serious. Literally, he'll go through the rules a few times, master it, and then come at you, and you'll be like, I don't know. I don't know how I would deal with that. I would never have thought of that in the first place. I don't know how I would deal with that. And then the next time, of course, he's not a one-trick pony. He's going to do something totally different. But it's always interesting, and it's always intriguing. It's just a question of, you need to set your ego aside, which maybe I'm not always good at. So that's really all I had to say about that. It's just a question of, you get pummeled, and you just keep going back for more, 'cause we're gamers and friends, and that's, I guess, what friends do. And I guess that's all I've got to say on that score. Kept this one short for you. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@thed6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
Look, I have an incoming call from you.
I will explain the issues with the quest right now. First, issue number 1. They are all paladin. Who builds a party like that? All paladins. Who does that? You know, you get a bunch of healers and fighters, but it's like a bunch of first-time D&D players like, well, the paladin's clearly the coolest. Let's all be one of those. That's just dumb.
Okay.
But I like the story. I mean, they had a reasonably okay story.
Okay, no, so this is the two different points of view that we're coming from. You don't like the fact that they're all paladins, even though they're basically auditioning to become the paladins. So
right.
That didn't bother me.
But paladins
is this the show that's like kind of like they're like LARPing, but they're like filming it?
It's like a reality.
Yes,
yeah.
it's like reality dungeon.
My problems are that some of the actors are really not good at improv.
No.
And some of the stuff they come up with off the top of their head is really not, shall we say, high fantasy.
Look, let's just
including watching the combat in the arena going, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay.
This could be a whole lost chapter on the quest.
Yeah, it could be. My other
issue. I might like this better than what we have queued up.
My other issue
for lost chapter.
Right.
is whenever they show a long shot of the castle, which I think is beautiful.
Yeah.
They keep showing the field out front, which has clearly been cleared by a tractor.
Yes, I thought that.
There are wheel marks, tractor wheel marks, all over the freaking hayfield.
Yes.
That I just noticed that today. That was the first thing
They're
I noticed.
oxen marks.
Yeah.
Oh, they could be. It could be an ox cart with very, very fat wheels.
Large rubber wheels on the ox cart.
That's right. That's right.